Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. We're happy to have you. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. You didn't think I was going to make it this morning, did you?
I was
hoping not.
Sitting down as the Open is playing. What? We get one bit of praise from Barrett Sports Media, and you think you just show up whenever you want?
Well, no, I've thought that my entire life. Now it's just justified. Now that we're being told that we're excellent at what we do. Nobody's going to celebrate second place today like I will.
All right, just because Jason Barrett and his company got your Venmo and moved us to 2 in the rankings doesn't mean you can come rolling in here at 10:02 a.m.
Listen to me. God help you if I figure out who I actually have to bribe for us to get number one. I thought we lost to Kentucky Sports Radio again. I was convinced. Instead, some show in Columbus has usurped KSR and bypassed us, leaving us at number 2. Unacceptable.
I mean, some good stuff was going on in Columbus over the course of the last 6 months or so.
And what the hell good has happened here?
I just don't think he was specific enough for his Venmo. He put in the description for beating KSR, so they just moved them down to 3.
Yeah, I think that is what happened.
Well, either way, what's happening is not talk about the rankings of mid-market sports talk radio shows. Like, there's a bunch of different qualifiers in front of that particular thing. But either way, we are grateful to you guys because there's no way that we get to do this nonsense without you all. And the fact that you all still listen when your football team is 3-14 is beyond me, but we'll take it. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. F&M Bank Chat also available to you. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Thomas Dimitroff is somebody who interviewed for the Titans job in the first round of interviews, the former Falcons general manager who came through here and was one of 10 candidates on the initial interviewee list. He didn't make it past the first round, which is fine. It happens. But it was a unique opportunity that Jim Wyatt got to catch up with Thomas Dimitroff and ask him specifically about this job, this situation, and the current people that the Titans have hired to put all this stuff into place. Jackson, if we could hear from the former Falcons general manager who caught up with Jimmy Wyatt at Super Bowl Radio Row.
I'm a big fan of Chad Brinker. I think he's coming to the table as a guy who has a really strong understanding of football at multiple levels, given his time in Green Bay, given his time in not only the evaluation side, but also his time in cap and contract and cap management, which I think is a really important part of that role as a president. And so I like him a lot. I thought he was very thought out when the questions he asked and how he approached everything. We had a couple great conversations around the interview as well. So, look, I think he's a guy that's driven. He's got a great story. We know that, right? Grew up in was it Steel Factory or Rubber Factory? Steel Factory, Ohio. You know, he's just a guy that knows how it is to roll up his sleeves. And I know he's going to appreciate around the people that he is hiring. And I'm a huge fan of Mike Borgonzi. As I mentioned to you a little bit earlier, also a huge fan of that team that teams are putting together with Reggie McKenzie also joining as well as Dave Ziegler. I think those are a really good staff that Chad Brinker is ultimately putting together. And I think that's what this organization in Tennessee needs. I mean, Mike Borgonzi, I mean, look, a strong football man, been around it. You know, he's got a really good eye. I know people that worked with him a lot at Kansas City, of course, and I also know people like Scott Pioli, who's really close with him, who's a huge endorser of Mike Borgonzi. And I love Scott, but Scott's not easily moved by people. So when Scott Pioli gives you an endorsement like Mike Borgonzi has gotten, I think that's a real positive. But Mike is just I like him. He's got a tough enough edge and understanding about football, which I think is important. He's going to give his information. He's going to feel strongly about it. He's not an easily swayed guy. So when he is going to the table for players and talking to Chad Brinker, in my mind, I know that he's going to be one of those guys that's going to feel very strongly about what he's seen and what the time that he's spent, looking at the players. And I think that's a really important thing for an organization that just signed, especially a first-time GM. There are times when you hire first-time GMs, they're kind of all over the place trying to keep their head above water. I was there, believe me, I know how that was. I think Mike comes in with a lot of confidence where I think he's going to be sound, feet strongly on the ground, and he's going to help develop a really good situation. I know what they're going to do is they're going to have a really strong process. Think about it. Mike Borgonzi comes from being around Brett Veach, who is one of the very best general managers out there, along with Howie Roseman. Right now, you have two of the best general managers in the league right now in the Super Bowl, and rightly so. He's been a part of that. I think that's important. Again, Chad being a part of the Packers, over the years, they've had their ups and downs, but they've been a stout personnel, team-building element. I think that's really important. And then, with Dave Ziegler coming from the Patriots and Reggie McKenzie helping Borgonzi out, I just think that you're going to come to the table with, 4 real legitimate different processes that you can pull together and take the best from those processes. I think that's going to be really beneficial. I think they're going to have.
All right. So that is an extended visit with Thomas Dimitroff, who is still doing work for the 33rd team and is in attendance at Super Bowl week. Jimmy Wyatt's down there. I saw Jim's ability to find random Titans players in the midst of the Monday Super Bowl media madness, because it's pure and utter chaos. Jameis Winston can't even get close to these podiums because there's so many vultures hovering around there to ask Jalen Hurts how people become more handsome like him.
I mean, Jim has eyes like a hawk. It is a true talent for him to be able to spot
Kyle Phillips. That's the first one that came to mind.
From across the way. I mean, it's just amazing.
Titans legend, Kyle
Anthony
Phillips.
Firkser, another one who most Titans fans have probably forgotten is on the Chiefs roster.
I'm helping him and his wife host a gala here in the not-too-distant future, so I didn't forget. Don't be disrespectful.
But it is amazing the way he is able to track these people down and get them to talk. And there's been some really interesting stuff to come out of Super Bowl week that is Titans-related. Not just Thomas Dimitroff, but Nick Suss catching up with Deandre Hopkins. We'll play that later on in the show. Some very interesting things revealed.
Will we play it? You're famously not a fan of that kind of audio. That audio is not good.
The audio is tough, but I think the information is just so important. He was just so honest that I think it's worth playing. And maybe we just decide.
I think we should read it.
Halfway through, we just read the transcript.
I think we should just read it.
Maybe we do. But really interesting stuff during Super Bowl week.
Everybody's got nothing but praise for the Titans structure and the Titans process and all four of the primary parties now having been hired or brought in this Titans executive hierarchy. And that's fine. That's all well and good. If I was a Titans fan, I would be pleased to hear that my football team is hiring quality people who come from quality places to try and do something of quality, to present a product of quality that has been lacking here for basically 3 seasons. My perspective is that's fine. Glad everybody's being well received, but I did the honeymoon phase last year and I'm not going to do it again. So I'm probably going to just temper my expectations a little bit and hope that we don't get ahead of our skis again as it relates to how good or not good this football team might actually be by the time they take the field in September of 2025. But, that's what is out there and available to be discussed and parsed at this point. I would love, there probably doesn't exist in today's media space an opportunity to sit in on one of these draft room type of situations or in an interview process with one of these prospective general managers, because I'd just be curious to know, like you hear details from people who participate or who are on the interviewer side of things for clubs, but like Peter King got to sit in a war room a couple of times with, I think it was the Niners, and go through like their draft process. And obviously Peter King, one of the most reputable journalists out there, they don't make him like Peter King anymore, and he's been retired, I think, for some considerable point in time. But they talk about the presentation of a plan. Like, how are you going to fix this? That's a big part of the interview process for these prospective general managers. Thomas Dimitroff talks about, his presentation of his plan. I'm sure Mike Borgonzi had a plan that he had to present to Chad Brinker, Amy Adams-Strunk, Burt Nihill. I don't know if Brian Callahan was involved in the final meetings or not, but he was involved in the interview process to some extent. Not a huge extent, but some extent. And I'd just be fascinated to know what the presentation of that kind of looks like. Because we all go through these things in our heads. We're playing armchair cheat GM every offseason, and especially with the tools that you have available, mock drafts and things of the like, spot track and over the cap, for you to be able to determine how much or how little cap space your favorite football team has. To see an executive do it would be a fascinating process. To see how they go about putting it together.
Especially an organization like the Niners, which I would guess when Peter King sat down with them, it was John Lynch and Adam Peters and Rand Carthon was probably in there. And obviously Kyle Shanahan, you could argue the buck kind of stops with him when it comes to that roster and final say and the importance we place on that. That's something I'd be particularly interested in seeing the dynamics of. And same with the Chiefs, who have had many voices in their front office and a head coach with significant say on the roster. So I think we've brought up the phrase "too many cooks in the kitchen" a few times.
Have we?
When discussing this? Yeah, I think it's a pretty natural thing, a question to bring up when you have 3 current or former general managers in a front office, none of them having final say, that going to Chad Brinker. There are fair questions, are there not, on how all of that will work. Is that too many cooks in the kitchen? But like you said, this has been almost universally praised by people across the NFL. I heard Robert Mays talking about it on the Athletic Football Show. He had kind of this genuine intrigue and interest and appreciation for what the Titans were doing. And I think there is an appreciation from fans that I understand Chad Brinker was here last year. But the fact that those people are reporting to a football executive and not an owner that can swoop in at any time and say, nah, I don't like this guy. You know what I mean? I think that is an important part of the process. I know Brinker reports to Amy.
She can at any given point if she wanted to.
But we don't know that she ever has. No. There's nothing to say she ever has.
Correct.
And that is an encouraging thing, even as bad as it's been, and we understand the process was bad to get to this point. If you have the right people in there, none of what's happened in the last 2 years matters. Because if you have the right people there and the process now is the right one, then there's a clear path forward. But yeah, it is fair to have a healthy skepticism until they actually show it.
It is as direct a structure, and this is the thing that I've been harping on for 3 years at this point, because they've kept trying to figure it out and they haven't been successful. And it's, not just driven me crazy, but driven all of you crazy, because it has resulted in losing football. But the biggest thing that I am willing to give them credit for, and that they deserve credit for, is that in the last few years, this direct of a structure did not exist. Who was answering to whom, and the hierarchy, regardless of whether they value titles or whether they bring up their own titles in the room as they're parsing through all this stuff. And do you have roster control? No, I have roster control. Eat it. Those kind of things, yeah? The structure has never been more direct. It allows for a degree of clarity for them internally as to how to do their jobs that they haven't had for 2 off seasons. So that they deserve credit for, that they deserve praise for. That is what they, at least in part, set out to accomplish. And it looks like they've successfully done at least that part. Whether or not the product ends up being successful, we will have to wait and see. Coming up next, the Myles Garrett trade, or Myles Garrett trade request, popped off as soon as we started the show yesterday. And then last night, right before primetime, Cooper Kupp said that he is getting ready to be traded from the Rams. What other players could we see hit the market of those kind of caliber, or of that kind of caliber? And should the Titans be interested in either of them? I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. The Tennessee Men's Clinic has helped guys who have been dealing with ED for over a decade, and they're here to help you and help you clear up any misconceptions you may have about treatment if you're somebody who is experiencing ED. The sad reality is, if you go to a doctor to seek treatment, Things like irreversible surgery may be the only options that they have on offer. Do not go through irreversible surgery to treat ED before you've talked to the experts at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. They specialize in men's sexual health issues. It's all they do. It makes them the experts in the field. And they have access to multiple protocols and options to treat ED based on your specific needs and what's going on in your body. So don't trust your health to an online pharmacy and don't feel like you're out of options. We want you to understand all the options available for ED treatment. The Tennessee Men's Clinic protocols are patient-centered and customized to your needs. They have treatments for everything from low testosterone, ED, treatments that increase size, stamina, and everything else in between. So schedule an appointment online today at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com for their Franklin or Midtown location, or call them 615-208-9090. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, 615-737-1045. The number, turn that up. That's Jed Harrelson. That sounds real nice. Any band, I'm a big band person, and any band that has a saxophone, I'm in on.
Unless they were making music before the year 2007.
Yeah, then I don't care. I don't care about anything that happened before 1993. Before I existed, I don't care what happened in the world. But now that I'm around, I like these things. Really good stuff. Local artist there, Jed Harrelson. Okay, Cooper Kupp. How many times have we seen this where a team informs a player that he's going to be traded, and the player immediately takes to social media to make a statement and to say his goodbyes to the Los Angeles area and talk about what his future is going to be? It doesn't happen very often. I'm sure it's not the first time it's ever happened, but maybe just in the wake of the Myles Garrett thing, it was pretty intriguing for me to see. Cooper Kupp is being told by the Los Angeles Rams they're going to look to trade him as soon as possible. Immediately was the phrase or the term used in the tweet, at least according to Adam Schefter. So he puts that out on social. That was
according to Cooper Kupp.
I was informed that the team will be seeking a trade immediately. This is Cooper Kupp on Twitter, and will be working with me and my family to find the right place to continue competing for championships. I don't agree with the decision and always believed it was going to begin and end in L.A. I had parenthetically, how often does that actually happen? I appreciate that athletes have that perspective and that desire to finish their careers where it started, but, I mean, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady didn't get to finish their careers where it started. That's really not how it typically goes. Anyway, it continues. Still, if there's one thing that I've learned over the years, there are so many things that are out of your control. But it is how you respond to these things that you will look back on and remember. I have taken so much pride in playing alongside my teammates for the Los Angeles community. So thank you for embracing my family and making this such a special place for us. 2024 began with one of the best training camps of my career. Preparations start now for 2025. Highly motivated, as healthy as ever, and looking forward to playing elite football for years to come. Love you guys, but coming for it all. Cooper Kupp.
I kind of hurt for him reading this. I was like, oh, man. It was very, very much Fresh Prince. How come they don't want me, man? I felt for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard. Change is hard in anybody's life, but it's particularly hard, I think, in professional sports because there is some element of blood, sweat, and tear sacrifice that goes into it. Ultimately, you know, it's not like these guys are... I know that there's a lot of military comparisons made between football and, you know, going to war and things like that, the terminology. And there is possibility for great bodily harm, not just present, but future, that you always take into account. So when these guys talk about laying their bodies on the line, they mean it. And that has a level of significance to them that, of course, you feel for them in any of those things. I still remember Peyton Manning getting released from the Colts and crying. And just looking at Peyton, you know, I'd never seen a professional athlete that visibly emotional at that point. I think it was like my freshman year in college when Peyton Manning ultimately left the Colts and signed with the Broncos. But just, you have no idea how much time, effort, energy is spent in these things. Coaches' lives are exhausting. Players' lives are exhausting. And people just chalk it up to, well, yeah, it's sports. They're having fun. They're getting paid millions of dollars to just have fun, play a game. Yeah, but this game is taxing. This game is costly. And so, yeah, I think that resonates with everybody.
He's 31. He'll be 32 in June. He has not had a 1,000-yard season since that ridiculous Offensive Player of the Year season he had in 2021 with over 1,900 yards.
Sure.
And obviously, that was the Super Bowl year where he had 478 yards and 6 touchdowns in the playoffs. Just a crazy run.
He still had 67 catches this year for north of, 700?
Right. North of 700 each of the last 2 years, north of 800 in 2022. Problem is he's missed at least 5 games or more in each of the last 3 years since that 2021 remarkable season where he played in all 17 games in the entirety of the playoffs.
So we can all agree, future New England Patriot, Cooper Kupp.
Future New England Patriot.
Well, Bill Belichick's not there anymore. And it's not like Cooper Kupp really fits the the typecasting of the tiny white slot receivers that Belichick had running around it. He's pretty big.
If anything, Titans fans see that and think that he fits what the Titans have pursued in veteran receivers over the years. He played 9 games in 2022, 12 games in 2023, 12 games in 2024, but was productive when he was on the field. Like you said, north of 700 in a season where you miss 5 or more games. If you're healthy, you're on track for yet another 1,000-yard season. How many 1,000-yard seasons do you think he has in his career? Cooper Kupp, who was
drafted in 17. Third-round pick in 17. I'm going to say 5.
Only 2, which was surprising to me.
What?
Yeah, only 2.
Is that because of injury?
Mostly. He had over 1,100 yards in 2019. That's really when his third year in the league is, although he had an impressive rookie year north of 800. But in 2020...
It feels like one of those 1,000-yard seasons that Puka had should go to Cooper Kupp.
Right. And Puka dealt with injury this past year. In 2020, he had 974 yards, but he missed 2 games. So you got to think that in those 2 games, there would have been about, 25 yards in there for him to get over 1,000. So mostly it's been because of health. If healthy, Cooper Kupp would probably be, going into potentially a 7th straight 1,000-yard season.
Which is probably the cost-benefit analysis that the Rams are doing right now, that if healthy proposition, because his deal right now with next season and 2026 still remaining on the contract. There's only $5 million worth of guarantees left on this contract, though. I'm reading directly from Spotrac, Mike Giannitti. The new team that acquires Cooper Kupp would have a $20 million cap hit with $5 million in guaranteed money in 25, a $19.85 million cap hit in 2026. The Rams would incur a dead cap hit of $17.26 million. For Cooper Kupp, any team looking to acquire Kupp will almost certainly be renegotiating his current contract. The 31-year-old carries a 2-year, $22 million valuation in our system. If this came with a $10 million signing bonus plus 3 void years, it would mean a cap hit of around $3.2 million in 2025. So basically, Mike is saying, hey, here's how you get the cap hit down, because the cap hit is the reason the Rams are trading him. And the availability. The cap hit plus the availability. It's no longer worth it to them. So if you could get Cooper Kupp for $3 million instead of $20 million, you might feel better about the idea of acquiring Cooper Kupp. The Titans should not be in the business of Cooper Kupp. We can agree?
Well, you think they should be in the business of Myles Garrett?
Hell yes.
I disagree. I don't think
there's a significant difference between Myles Garrett
for sure.
and Cooper Kupp.
Myles Garrett, yeah.
Everybody in the league should be in on
is
Myles
already
Garrett.
A game-changing player. I don't think the Titans should be, because I think it takes a lot more than just the Browns moving from 2 to 1. And I just, again, think it would run very counter to what the Titans have been preaching about the next couple of years. I don't know how feasible that is for the Titans.
Counter to their long-term plan, but it would fall directly in line with their stated plan of a generational talent, not passing over a generational talent that could be acquired with the number 1 overall pick. So I understand your point.
It also runs directly counter to what Myles Garrett wants out of this, which is Super Bowl contention.
Again, Myles Garrett, I'm sure he's a lovely human being. I don't care about his wants at this point in time. I care about putting together the best possible football team for the future of the Tennessee Titans. And I would argue, if they do in fact have patience over panic from their organization, then acquiring Myles Garrett en route to a longer-term build for a 29-year-old pass rusher he's the best non-quarterback in football.
Yeah, you could argue that. I think Jamar Chase would have an argument for that.
He's quarterback dependent.
That's true.
Wide receivers, because there's wide receivers everywhere that are excellent at what they do, that are incredible talents, that have high-level traits, and you could certainly argue for the age component over those wide receivers, but the wide receiver is the most dependent position in sports.
I understand you don't care about Myles Garrett's wants, but if Myles Garrett and what he wants has any sort of impact on this trade, then you have to care about it, because it would directly impact whether or not the Titans would be a feasible landing spot. There are just too many. Again, the percentages, right? To you, there's a higher percentage chance that Will Levis will be here simply because he's under contract in 2025.
Correct.
To me, there is a higher percentage chance that Myles Garrett will not be here than that he will.
Oh, no, I agree with that assessment. I'm not saying that this is likely at all. But as we talked about yesterday, if you are going to be in the market for generational talent, how many generational talents does the Tennessee Titans roster currently have?
None. That's a strong word. I mean, generational talent. That's Patrick Mahomes, right? Like that isn't.
It's also Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I agree.
This team has some good players. There are good players on the Tennessee Titans roster. Jeff Simmons is a good player. Tony Pollard is a good player. Nick Folk is a good player. There are not that many good players either. They need good players. They need average players. They need great players to be able to get this place to this roster to a place where it's competitive and sustainably competitive, because not only do they need top-line talent, they need depth, which your point about Myles Garrett and a trade not being feasible for the Tennessee Titans, I 100% agree with, because not only do they need players, they need depth. And this would rob them of the ability to add critical depth, and it would directly run counter to their stated goal of 30 draft picks in the next 3 years, with a preference, or at least a goal, of getting 12 of those 30 draft picks in the top 100. The best route to accomplishing that is trading out of this year's number 1 overall pick. Not giving up additional capital the way that they have for the Will Levis trade, losing a third-round pick there. The L'Jarius Sneed trade, losing this year's third-round pick to the Kansas City Chiefs. 66th overall would probably help this roster. Instead, it's going to help KC. So while I acknowledge that it is not at any point likely that the Titans would acquire Myles Garrett, or that Myles Garrett would have any kind of interest in playing for a team that's, it's got the same record as Cleveland.
Let me ask you this.
They're 3-14.
Well, did Myles Garrett request a trade, or did the Browns say we want to offload Myles Garrett?
He requested a trade.
He requested a trade. He does not want to be in Cleveland anymore.
Correct.
So if the team and the Browns are saying, no, we don't want to trade Myles Garrett, we don't plan on trading Myles Garrett, that's just what they're saying right now.
Mm-hmm. That's just what they're saying. That doesn't mean anything to me other than come in with higher than average opening offers, and then we'll tell you that those aren't good enough and you'll give us more.
Right. So if the Tennessee Titans were the ones to swoop in with the strongest offer, which again would mean multiple draft picks that the Titans need, if you're Myles Garrett, would you rather be in Tennessee or in Cleveland?
Oh, Tennessee.
You'd rather be in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Would that not be a lateral move for Myles Garrett?
Yeah, but if you're, are you
struggling team to another struggling team? At that point,
are you just asking me on surface value like Nashville over Cleveland?
Oh, sorry, no. I'm talking about if you are Myles Garrett, you are requesting a trade because you want to play for a Super Bowl.
Of course you don't want to come here. No.
Okay, so if the team that is trying to swoop in for you is not close to contending for a Super Bowl, you probably want to do what the Browns want you to do, and that's stay in Cleveland.
No, I would disagree with that. I think that because you brought this up yesterday, the Watson thing, it's not going anywhere. Like, a caller brought, and we never got to this yesterday. That's a mistake by me. I said we were going to get to it after a break, and then I forgot about it. Yeah, the idea of the Deshaun Watson
being
salary
included in the trade,
including that, and just making it, first for second straight up plus Myles Garrett, and then we'll take Deshaun Watson's awful contract.
Yeah, I know. I don't love getting into those, fantasy football trade scenarios. Like, what if
all we have to do before March?
It just doesn't seem feasible.
UW says, we can't afford Garrett. Plus, he hates Mason Rudolph. Well, Mason Rudolph's not on the roster.
That'd be a twist, than being on the same team.
Besties. They've bridged the gap. They've resolved their differences. Nobody will be swinging a helmet at another person any longer. No. Mason Rudolph is no longer under contract, or will no longer be under contract when the new league year begins. He's on a one-year deal. And can you afford Myles Garrett? Hell yeah, you can. You can make the cap stuff work. You have to, but he has to be willing to sign an extension to make the cap stuff work. And that's the complication. Again, should they have a compensation package prepared? Should they at least have a baseline offer? Sure. Whether they up the ante on the offer is a different kind of proposition. But all 31 other teams should have a compensation offer prepared for Cleveland, whether or not Cleveland finds that sufficient or not.
And you're in a unique position where you are sitting right there above them with the number 1 overall pick, and you don't know how badly they want to move up to the number 1 overall pick.
The thing that's going to be fascinating to me is, what's the name of the Jets pass rusher? Hassan Reddick. Missed games, lost money.
Yeah, after being traded to the Jets.
Thought it was going to be a strategy that was going to work in his favor. Did not work in his favor. This almost never works. Holdouts in the NFL, I'm not going to say they never work, but it's really, really damn hard to pull off, to find success in that particular situation. Now, Hassan Reddick is not the player that Myles Garrett is. So perhaps Myles Garrett has more leverage than what we just saw with Reddick. And that situation got more contentious as it wore on. And Reddick also sounds like he wasn't necessarily the easiest party to work with. He changed agents in the middle of that. And ultimately, Drew Rosenhaus got him to play. Like, he came back and played for the Jets this year. The only thing that's going to force the Browns' hand is Myles Garrett being willing to miss games. And by the way, if they trade him before the new league year begins in, March 15th, March 16th, I think this year, they stand to incur a sizable cap hit.
Yep.
So that's something that's gonna play itself out in the long run because Cleveland can't afford to eat more cap than they're already going to have to eat at some point when they move on from Deshaun Watson, or that they're currently eating with Deshaun Watson on the roster.
What does Cooper Kupp go for?
31. Availability, I won't say issues, we'll say concerns.
It'll be 32 in week 1 of the 2025 season.
It's a day 3 draft pick to me.
Yeah.
At best.
Rams have done a nice job of kind of
maybe a 5th.
building back draft capital after they've shipped so much away to build up that Super Bowl run, which obviously ended up being worth it. But they have 8 picks in this upcoming draft. 2/3, no second-round pick, and 3 6s, no 5th.
People are saying a 3rd, a 4th. The age, the contract, I don't know. And you're going to have to offer him some level of financial compensation to make it work for your cap, because you're not taking Cooper Kupp at $20 million.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Combine will be a big part of this. We'll be at the Combine this year. I'm excited. Combine's going to be a huge week for a variety of different reasons. It's always a huge news week, where a lot of these deals, even though it's not technically the legal tampering period yet, a lot of these deals start to get hashed out in Indianapolis. So we'll provide you more insight and information as that week wears on. The rumor mill will be in full swing by that time. But while I understand that the Titans are probably not going to acquire either of these players, I am pro Myles Garrett to an extent. And I am not anti-Cooper Kupp, but I wouldn't want to see the Titans acquire a 32-year-old wide receiver when the best one that they have right now is 30 and significantly expensive. And this team, under Rand Carthon, the highest draft pick that Rand Carthon spent on a wide receiver in 2 years was a 6th, Jaquan Jackson. And obviously that didn't work out very well. There's always Traylon Burks, I guess. Do we have things to give away?
We do. Call in for your oh no moment in sports this week. 2 tickets to see Lainey Wilson at Bridgestone Arena on October 2nd, plus a $100 Moments Peace Salon gift card.
615-737-1045 is the number. If you call in and tell us what in sports made you say, oh no, we'll give you those Lainey Wilson tickets and that $100 gift card to a Moments Peace Salon and Day Spa.
We've been trying to tell you this whole time. Hattie B's is the best hot chicken in Nashville. Well, now it's official. Hattie B's, winners of Hot Chicken Week by the Nashville Scene. Big game coming up on Sunday. Maybe you're watching at home, having some people over. Maybe you need something to bring to your watch party on Sunday night. I present to you the bucket of 24 jumbo split wings with Hattie B's. HattieB.com is where you go online to order for pickup or delivery. Download the Hattie B's app. While you're there, you get a free dessert just by doing so. It's the perfect thing, a big bucket of chicken to bring to your watch party on Sunday. Hattie B's is a family-run restaurant that serves up your favorite Southern food and authentic Nashville hot chicken. Add your spice level, hot or not, everything in between. It's whatever works for you and your crowd. Pick your favorite sides to go with it. Southern greens, pimento mac and cheese, bacon cheese grits, and so much more. The fried pickles with the light dusting of the Hattie B signature spices. I'm getting myself worked up. It's too early to be craving hot chicken, but it's never too early to be craving Hattie B's. Again, pick up your bucket of jumbo split wings for your watch party on Sunday. Visit HattieB.com.
That's right. We got Lainey Wilson tickets for you to win and a $100 gift card to a Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. If, and only if, you tell us what in sports made you say, oh no, that was very sudden with the music. That was very disrespectful that you just did to this segment.
Oopsie.
How many oopsies would you say he's had this week? How many oopsies does it take to get you fired? It's like the owl. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? How many oopsies does it take to get Jackson Williams fired? I've often wondered this question.
I'm appreciating this facade that you created, that you have any power to get Jackson fired, as if that wouldn't have happened months ago.
If I actually wanted him fired, I would have fired him months ago? We'll see. We'll see what power I do or do not have. Keep it up. Whoopsie.
Take your best shot.
Okay. 615-737-1045. What in sports made you say, oh, no? Now, I'm going to cheat because mine's not in sports. Do you often check the Weather Channel app? I also think this is a product of age. I look at the Weather Channel app daily now, just as I've bought bird feeders to watch birds from my kitchen window, and the birds refuse to visit the feeders in the kitchen window. I've just started throwing bird seed in the yard now, so they'll eat it out of the grass and maybe one day go to the feeder. It's not working.
You have cats. Not going to happen.
Inside.
Yeah, but birds are smart. They can see the cats. And you let them out. You let them out.
For like 5 minutes. Birds are dumb.
No,
birds are clearly dumb. I keep throwing food out there for them.
They're outsmarting you.
They'd rather eat the trash in the alleys of Germantown and North Nashville than eat the $100 worth of bird seed that I bought at Lowe's over the weekend. Anyway, I check the Weather Channel app daily now, and I don't know why. But today, when I checked the Weather Channel app, do you know what I was greeted by?
What's that?
It says today with a tab for the forecast. It says this week with a tab for the week's forecast. And then the third tab listed in the Weather Channel app is asteroid coming? ? Today, this week, asteroid coming?
You're not going to get a chance to fire me.
What the hell is that? And I clicked it. It's a whole tab worth of resources about this asteroid, this large asteroid that could hit Earth in 2032. That's not what I want to be greeted by. If the asteroid is coming, if we're going to go the way that the dinosaurs went, just let it happen. Don't tell me on the front end. It's like that movie. Did you ever see that movie, Don't Look Up?
Oh, yeah. It was
Excellent
good.
movie.
It was a good movie.
I would prefer not to look up. I would rather go about the rest of my life. I'm not one of these people that wants to know the date of my death or anything morbid like that. If I'm going to go, just take me. All right?
Yeah, 2032. It's a later problem.
Yeah,
But not while I'm trying to check whether or not I'm going to need a rain jacket today. Do I want to be greeted by asteroid coming? ? No.
I can't think 7 years in advance. You're going to have to tell me it's happening this week for me to be concerned.
I'll be Buck's age by the time that asteroid gets here.
Yeah, you'll be ancient at that point.
That's hurtful. So hopefully NASA's on it. But in the meantime, while I check the weather app daily, oh no, the asteroid. This is terrible. I about dropped my coffee cup. Oh. I'm saying.
Well, in the year 2019, for Colts fans around the world like one Buck Rising, it probably felt like an asteroid hitting you and rocking your world when Andrew Luck, out of nowhere, announced his retirement.
I was hammered at Yeehaw with Madison Blevins. We did a live stream that I don't think anybody watched.
You were crying. You were distraught. I remember it well. Andrew Luck was on Pardon My Take of Barstool Sports this week, talking about that day and how the news leaked. And this had me saying, oh no, for Andrew Luck, who I consider to be a phenomenal human being.
I always felt bad that it got leaked, obviously, with Schefter, and then you have the moment on the field. That had to be really hard to have it be rushed, because you had it probably in your head hey, this is how I want to do it. I know it's a big decision. I know it's going to shock some people, but then have it kind of taken away from you where someone else reports it and you don't get to say it, and then you have to deal with the fans on the field and everything. That sucks.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, it was difficult. I remember there were 8 minutes left, and I swear I felt the cameras turn on me or something, and immediately, I don't know if you've had this experience in life where there's just such certainty that something has happened.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's out.
Yeah.
I know it's out. And I just remember going and standing next to Anthony Costanzo, I think Mark Lewinsky and Ryan Kelly, and just standing between them. And just hey guys, I'm just going to stand between you for the next 8 minutes.
Protect me one last time.
Yeah, and I'm going to stand there. And again, I didn't feel alone.
Yeah.
And I think I don't mean this in a cheesy way. Like, I felt like they had my back, for those 8 minutes, and I'll be forever appreciative of that.
That made me say, oh no. That moment of Andrew Luck not even getting to announce the news on his own.
That was one of the saddest things I've ever seen, is him on the sidelines of a preseason game getting booed out of Lucas Oil.
For the last time. Brutal.
Buck was one of those people booing in his Peyton Manning jersey.
No, again, famously wasted at Yeehaw.
Still booing.
You got one?
Oh, yeah. Mine is, it's in relation to the Dallas Mavericks Luka Doncic trade. They're getting controlled by language learning apps now. Duolingo putting out this tweet yesterday saying, let's review our mistakes. A screenshot from their app that says, let's review our mistakes, tagging the Mavericks. That made me say, oh no, much like the entire situation with Luka Doncic ending up in L.A. made me say, oh yeah.
Lake Show?
Lake Show?
615. Okay, I understand. 615-737-1045. What in sports made you say, oh no, for the opportunity to win those Lainey Wilson tickets and a $100 gift card to a Moment's Peace salon and day spa? Now listen, there's going to be a lot of Luka submissions. The first one off the board had better be the best one. And the rest of you better very quickly hang up after the fact if your submission is the Luka submission. Because I'm certain with we have 9, 8 lines here.
Yeah, going to be a lot of Luka
Doncic.
Doncic.
We're going to be Luka.
Yeah.
Let's start with Will.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going.
Excellent. Yeah, so mine is Luka. I just made me say, oh no, for the fact that you're basically just handing in your resignation at that point. I mean, if you really don't want your job that much, then just resign, as far as just we're looking forward to the future, how are you going to face that in, future job interviews, and who's going to want to bring you in after that trade was made? So man, that just made me say, oh no, what are you thinking? You're basically saying hey, I don't know much about ball, so going forward, it's who's going to, take a chance on you after you just made that trade, giving away, one of the best superstars in the NBA for essentially nothing. So that's what made me say, oh no, this week.
Thanks for the call, Will. Remember to stay on hold for the opportunity to win tickets. To me, the oh no is less about that element of it. Did you hear what he said, the general manager, in this press conference when he's asked about the long-term plan? Jackson, you brought this up, I believe, yesterday.
Yeah, he essentially said we won't be here.
He looked over at Jason Kidd and said, well, I'm focused on winning now and winning, 3 and 4 years down the road. 10 years from now, I don't know if we'll be here. And he does this uncomfortable laugh and chuckle and look over at Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd's head is down, and he's shaking his head visibly. God. Like the general manager is looking to Jason Kidd for kind of hey, support me here as I laugh uncomfortably. And all he's greeted with is a just head between his, just head hung low, looking down, shaking his head, because of course Jason Kidd is furious. Because of course this general manager has guaranteed that neither of them will be there probably in 3 or 4 years, much less 10.
Yeah, I mean, he is right, and he would probably be right regardless. How many general managers in the NBA make a decade? But yeah, tough luck.
But I would love the security camera footage of them telling Jason Kidd what they did.
For sure.
Released. We need
it would
that
look
released.
something like Vrabel in the draft room when they traded AJ.
I don't know, because that was very public, very televised. I think they knew they were in a private area. I think this would have been much more entertaining.
He still made a scene of it.
I wonder, are we going to start to see stuff leaked from the Mavericks about Luka and his weight and his drinking?
Yeah, they already did on the way out the door.
Has it already happened?
Yes. Again, so stupid, this organization. We'll take your phone calls for what in sports made you say, oh no. Coming up next, we will also dive into Roger Goodell's State of the League press conference, what he had to say about the Chiefs and the officiating rumors. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. In NFL news, L.A. Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp announced on social media Monday that the Rams will be seeking to trade him. Kupp saying, quote, "I don't agree with the decision and always believed it was going to begin and end in L.A." Kupp will be 32 by the start of the 2025 season. Buffalo Bills safety Micah Hyde has announced his retirement from the NFL. The 34-year-old is a two-time All-Pro, and he hangs it up after 12 seasons. The Nashville Predators lost a fifth straight on Monday, 5-2 to the Senators at Bridgestone Arena. They will visit the Blackhawks on Friday in a matchup of the bottom two teams in the Central. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second hour is upon us. Super Bowl week is upon us. The media extravaganza that was held at was it at the Superdome or was it at the Convention Center? It looks like it's at the Superdome.
Isn't it usually? I feel like usually all the Chiefs and Eagles, like the players of the teams, are on the field of the stadium, of the venue.
Yeah, I think that's typically the case. So it looks like it's at the Superdome last night. We've got some Deandre Hopkins, Titans adjacent audio to get to. Or I guess it's not adjacent. It's directly involving the Titans because Deandre Hopkins isn't competing for a Super Bowl without the Tennessee Titans this year. We've also got Jimmy Wyatt, who caught up with Chiefs general manager Brett Veach that we can get to at some point later this afternoon as well. What we are in the middle of, though, is you telling us what in sports made you say, oh, no. I've got 2 Lainey Wilson tickets to give away, plus a $100 gift card to a Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. Just to refresh, Luka has already been a submission. Mine was the asteroid section of the Weather Channel app, just generally causing me angst and concern. Lucas had Andrew Luck and everything that happened in 2019 around his retirement and the booing on the field during a preseason game at Lucas Oil. And Jackson, what was yours?
How nice of you to remember. Mine was Duolingo calling out the Dallas Mavericks for their trade, posting a screenshot of their language learning app saying, "Let's review our mistakes, shall we?"
It's probably the best one of the group, to be honest with you. Although the asteroid thing, I mean, I legitimately said, oh, no. Oh,
and I'll be old by the time that asteroid comes.
What happens first? The asteroid kills us all or the Titans win a Super Bowl?
Asteroid. Not even close.
I was genuinely thinking about this today. With the Barrett Sports Media rankings, we placed in second. Again, nobody celebrates second place like we do. Would the show be better or worse if the Titans were good? I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I suppose we'll have to wait to find out.
You would be less unbearable, so I'm going to say better.
I think that I'm best when things are bad.
Oh, I know. It's why you love it when things are bad, even though you pretend like you don't.
No, I do not want to waste my time with 3 and 14. I don't want to waste anybody's time with 3 and 14, but selfishly, I don't want to waste my time with 3 and 14. As much as I enjoy a little bit of controversy, 14 losses too much controversy.
Your words when Malik Willis came to town were, "It would be heaven if Malik Willis came and helped the Packers beat the Titans."
Sure, it was week 3. It was week 3.
And I told you to be careful what you wish for.
I know.
And you didn't.
But it was just week 3, and then everything. I didn't think they were going to lose to everybody. I didn't think they were going to get swept by Mac Jones. Anyway, 615-737-1045, the number. If you want to jump in, Will has submitted his. Let's go to Caleb next.
Hey, gentlemen. I got a family member, grew up in Tennessee, a Titans fan, then moved to Dallas for school, where he became a Mavericks fan. Now he lives in Cleveland and is a Browns fan. So in a span of 4 years, he had to suffer through AJ, Luka, and now Myles Garrett. He's just apparently a black hole for fandom, and I'm hoping that he moves to Kansas City in about 2 years, where they end up trading the homes as well.
What is your friend?
Come on.
He's the curse?
He's just a free agent, just a fan free agent? Come on.
No, he went to school. He lived in Tennessee, ended up going to college, and then married his wife, and they moved to Cleveland. So it sounds, the luck, the bad luck is incredible there. So I don't think he's actually going to move to Kansas City. It's just my selfish hope that he does.
Thank you for the call, Caleb. Lucas, of course, is the arbiter of all things fandom, gets to decide whether you're a good enough fan or not.
I mean, I don't think you should just get to adopt, like, oh, suddenly you're a Browns fan just because you moved to Cleveland and you haven't rooted for them a day in your life.
Again, you make the rules on these things as the arbiter of sports fandom. Nobody gets to be a sports fan unless Lucas Panzica tells you how you get to be a sports fan.
What do you think happened when the Titans moved to Nashville?
Oh, sure. No, I get that. But that's different. That's a team coming into your...
It's the same.
I disagree with it.
It's the same. The team moved... So you probably a lot of NFL
you know what?
fans.
I think Jackson's right. I think you should, if you want to be a fan of the team that you're of the team that's in the city that you're living, I think that's okay.
Let's stop gatekeeping fanhood.
So why are you such a gatekeeper with fandom?
So if I was born in Nashville, right? Grew up a huge Titans fan. It's the only NFL team I've ever rooted for in my life. So if I moved to Dallas, then suddenly I would just get to switch up and just be a Cowboys fan?
In fact,
that doesn't sound wrong to you?
This is the best. You are the best example that we have of this because, yes, you were born in Nashville, but where did you grow up the vast majority of the time?
I grew up in Birmingham.
You should be an Alabama fan. You should not be allowed to be a Tennessee fan.
I remained a Tennessee fan and a Titans fan because that's where I was from and that's where I was a fan of. Even 8-year-old me couldn't fathom just switching because of the city I lived in. That's crazy. That's crazy talk. You wouldn't get it.
I think it is very different between college and pro sports. Because I think college is much more accessible anywhere in the country than pro sports is.
There is more of a connection also.
If Lucas lived in Dallas, he could watch pretty much every major Tennessee sporting event from Dallas.
And you couldn't watch the
NFL.
Titans.
Yeah, you're not watching the Titans without Sunday Ticket or
assuming
another.
they make it on Red Zone at any point in their season.
That's true.
So I'm with that. You're wrong. Chris is next.
Guys, how we doing?
Good.
So, I think if an asteroid had hit my house Saturday night, it probably wouldn't have been worse than, for me, as back to your discussion about college teams and fandom, huge Kentucky fan growing up in Tennessee, and Coach Cal coming back, walking into Rupp. I'm speaking for Big Blue Nation here. Coming in and dog walking the Cats. I'm sure the oh no was hundreds of thousands of folks probably who felt like me, who had the asteroid come down and buried me. I'm not sure I could have felt worse. Not to mention, not to mention the three guys that went with Cal scored a combined 52 points.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And in the loss to Oakland a couple years ago, a combined 5 points.
Oh, man.
So it was just, I hear it.
He's like, I get it.
Listen, as a lifelong Kentucky fan, it was kind of like Darth Vader walking in and just smacking Luke across the face is what it felt like. That's my oh no. It was horrible.
Good submission.
Chris is the leader.
For sure.
Chris is the leader in the clubhouse. I don't know what I was more surprised by. I was genuinely shocked that Vanderbilt lost by 30 at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's not a good at least they haven't been good in SEC play.
Vandy's at Florida tonight.
Yeah,
both teams looking to bounce back.
So I was surprised to see Cal go to Kentucky and win that way. But, you could understand that you get up for one game in any given basketball season. But Vanderbilt laying an egg like that was pretty shocking.
Yeah, Arkansas hanging 89 in Rupp Arena. Yeah, that is a no-no.
Eric is next.
Hey, good morning, guys. But first thing, Buck, I hope the wonderful people at Nash Severe Weather are not listening, because if they heard you were checking the Weather Channel daily, they would not be happy and probably strangle you, because they call that the crap app, and it's not good. But
well, I also, because they saved my life in 2020, I have every Nashville severe weather tweet on notification. I get more tweets from them than I do Adam Schefter.
Good. They are amazing people.
They are.
The oh no of the week is me, because I went to the Tennessee basketball game Saturday, and I took my wonderful girlfriend, who's not a UT fan, she's an A&M fan, to our first basketball game. And everything was going well until I get too close to Farragut outside of Knoxville, and I get a notification that Zakai Ziegler is going to be out. And so I start panicking. I'm like, oh, my God, we're screwed. We already lost by 30 to this team, and we're out Zakai. And then we get to the arena. I'm in my seat, and I hear a guy walking up the stairs in my section saying, Igor's out, as he's talking to another person. And that flared up my battered ball syndrome. And she's seeing me in pregame warm-up, sitting up in my chair with my hands over my face saying, we are so screwed. We are so screwed. And I am texting my dad, we are so screwed because our 2 starters are out. So I petrified my poor girlfriend with my stressing at Tennessee games. So she got to see that firsthand. But we ended up winning by 20. It was a great day. We both had fun. But, stressing at Vols games is my specialty.
Wait, Eric, is this the first time that how long have you been dating?
We have been dating about a year and a half now.
Okay, so it's not the first time she has seen your full-blown BVS, I assume.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. She's seen many football games and all that, but it's the first, in-person basketball game. She's seen me at football games, but this one was really bad just because we'd already lost bad to Florida, and we're down 2 starters, so, yeah.
Because that's an important test in a relationship.
Thanks for the call,
That
Eric.
first BVS flare-up. How does your significant other handle that? If she sticks around, then you got to keep her.
I thought Grace was going to leave me when I missed several times over the course of our relationship. But when we went to Pins and Indiana was playing Purdue, and that was a game that Indiana ended up upsetting Purdue. But I was one of these people pacing the restaurant, screaming at the television. Everybody else trying to have a lovely afternoon, play duck bowling or whatever they're doing at Pins Mechanical down there in the Gulch. And I am like visibly yelling at the television. I thought that was the end before it began, but we survived.
How'd they do against Purdue recently?
They played, honestly, the best basketball game I've seen them play all season. They still lost. Hate them. Will is next.
Yeah, my oh no is going to go to Mike Vrabel for just not being able to resist hiring Todd Downing on his staff. So good luck there, Patriots fans.
It's a really good one.
He's a wide receivers coach.
Why? This is probably the best staff that Mike's ever had, and he insists on bringing Todd Downing with him.
It's like there are multiple places where Vrabel has, I think, learned from past errors, right?
Yeah.
He didn't hire a first-time former, D3 coach to be his O-line coach?
Yes.
He hired Doug Marrone, a former head coach in the NFL, to be his O-line coach. Great hire. Josh McDaniels, you can debate. Patriots fans, I'm sure, have mixed feelings, but you at least don't think you're going to lose him to a head coaching opportunity.
He's had success.
So, yeah, that is a head scratcher.
Todd
got to have him on that staff. Has he been a wide? I know he was the tight ends coach here for a time.
But it's like Tommy Reese was the Browns tight ends coach last year. That doesn't mean anything. Tommy Reese has never coached tight ends before.
Todd Downing has never been a wide receivers coach in the National Football League.
Todd Downing probably called Mike Vrabel. Again, I'm speculating here, but Todd probably called Mike Vrabel and said, "Hey, Mike, I want to be an offensive coordinator again. How do I get back there?" So he said, we got a wide receiver coach opening. You'll be our wide receivers coach. Figure it out." That happens a lot in the NFL. Hell, it just happened in Cleveland. Like I said, Tommy Reese wants to be an offensive coordinator. Tight end coach tends to be the quickest path.
Well, it's a head coach that's calling plays, though. A little bit different with Stefanski.
OC. Yeah, but again, if you're hiring somebody that's never coached the position to coach that position, again, Tommy Reese has never been a tight ends coach before.
Yeah.
So these things happen. Wes, the last submission for Oh No. What do you got, Wes?
Hey, guys. I really hope that I'm not talking about Chris, who called in a few minutes ago, the Kentucky fan, but I'm not trying to be the fashion police. But I don't know if you saw the other night during that game, they kept showing the same 2 guys over and over and over again. I mean, I haven't seen this much fan involvement with the camera since Catherine Webb, but these guys were wearing homemade, it appeared, T-shirts of Cal with a big red nose on.
Yes, I did see this.
They clearly spent a lot of time on Etsy designing those. But what in the world is a middle-aged man wearing that for? As soon as I saw them, I thought, oh no, Cal is about to come in here and beat up on them Cavs.
And that's exactly what he did. Did you see the T-shirt? You remember the Goodell shirts that Barstool made with the clown nose on them after the Patriots
the
thing?
Same thing, but with Cal.
Yeah, they did it with Cal. And so, yeah, I've seen grown men wear more questionable outfits to sporting events than just that. But yeah, it was pretty good. All right, so you got Wes with the Calipari clown T-shirts. You've got Will with Todd Downing. Eric for his level of BVS, despite the Vols winning by 20 at home against Florida. Chris simply with Cal winning at Rupp. Caleb, who considers his buddy to be the black hole of sports fandom, and Will with Luka, who's currently giving a Lakers press conference right now and looks pudgy.
Lake Show?
Looks pudgy. Okay. Are you a Dallas Mavericks plant? What's going on here?
No, I'm just saying. I want people to stop wearing these kind of sweaters because Traylon Burks did this on report day for training camp too, and it makes you look like you got a ton.
He looks fine.
It makes you look like you got a ton. Nobody looks good wearing those. It's like those performance shirts that people wear, like Patrick Mahomes look like he got a dad bod in him. It's got to be smart.
Chris had a good delivery, I thought, on the Cal stuff.
I'm between Chris and Wes. Jackson tiebreaker.
Both had Cal submissions.
Chris.
All right. Congratulations to Chris. 2 tickets to the Lainey Wilson concert and a $100 gift card to a Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. We do this segment each Tuesday at 10:45 for the opportunity to win great prizes. Coming up next, you have headlines?
I have multiple headlines.
I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It's time for headlines with Lucas Panzica.
That's definitely longer than the last time we played it.
Nah, I think you're overthinking things. It's about the exact same amount of time that we've always done.
Yep.
That music.
I don't believe you.
Actually,
neither of you. What is it like to both be liars? Are we doing that thing on the show where if one of us lies or we think that the other one is lying, we just shout out, lie!
Look at you. You're in your head. You're spiraling.
Lie!
That's only when you lie, which is all the time.
That music actually feels very appropriate today because I feel like that's the music that should have been playing when Roger Goodell was stepping up to the stage yesterday in New Orleans for his State of the League address. It's rinse and repeat. I feel like every year you might as well just flip on a rerun of last year's State of the League or the year before, officiating, the schedule expanding to 18 games, and international NFL teams, the Super Bowl overseas, are topics A, B, and C in whatever order you want to put them in. But this was the clip that was going around the most yesterday in regards to officiating, specific to the Kansas City Chiefs. And Roger Goodell is asked if officiating has favored Kansas City.
Officiating has favored the Chiefs, not my perception, public perception. How much of a concern is that for you in the league?
Well, this sort of reminds me a little bit of the script, right? That I write a script, and I have the script for the entire season. Listen, I think from a lot of those theories are things that happen in social media, and they get a new life. As you say, it's not your theory, but it's out there. Nobody wants it to be their theory. And so I understand that. I think it reflects a lot of the fans' passion. And I think it also is a reminder for us how important officiating is. And I think the men and women that officiate in the NFL are outstanding. They have the highest possible standards. That's ridiculous theory for anyone who might take it seriously. But at the end of the day, it's something we always have to continue to work on. How do we make our officiating better at all times? And if you look at the Chiefs' record, which I think is an amazing thing, people talk about the competitiveness of our league. The Chiefs, with their 15 wins, 15-2 this year, 11 of those 15 games were within one score. And I think that talks about the competitiveness of our game and the importance of how we officiate it, but also the competitiveness of how we play it.
He really should. I mean, I know he's technically a politician in that role, but he really should have been a politician. He praised the fans, talked about how the officiating needs to get better, took some of the heat off the officiating, and also called the answer ridiculous, or called the question ridiculous. All right. Do we agree or disagree with Roger Goodell? I agree with him. I think it's ridiculous. The amount of times, again, the sheer volume. Does it happen? Would I be ignorant to say, well, of course, there's never been a call or never been an official that's ever been influenced, whether he or she is cognizant of that or not, to call a penalty that benefits the Kansas City Chiefs. These things do happen. Okay, I'm not ignorant of that fact. Again, it could be implicit or explicit bias. Like these things do happen. But the sheer volume, the amount of times that people accuse the officials of it happening is ridiculous. It's not happening at as frequent of a rate as fans want to make it. And I think, again, to Goodell's point, social media is the proliferation of that. There's no checks and balances there, even though I think Twitter now has a fact-checking function to some degree, or at least some level of it provides additional information if you put something out there that's not completely truthful. I agree with Goodell, and I don't think I've said that very often in my life, but I agree with Roger on that.
Right, like the AFC Championship. What was the biggest gripe with the officiating? Josh Allen, did he get the first down? How many times do we see a giant rugby scrum where you have no earthly idea where the ball is, and there's a question about the spot on a critical play? All the time. We talk about it all the time. Put some sort of technology in that football that doesn't have officials trying to eye it when there's a mass of humanity on top of the football.
Now, did you see that that's going to be a talking point, at least a voting topic at the NFL owners meeting?
Yes, and that's fantastic. Make it happen. And the other thing is, because I see this comment in the F&M Bank chat, D Squared says it's ridiculous that Mahomes gets ridiculous calls that extend Chiefs drives with a multiple question marks. I think it's that the Chiefs make you pay in a way that other teams don't. It's true, the Chiefs get the benefit of some calls and they turn into points every time, and it amplifies that call. Now, there are a lot of numbers that support the fact that the Chiefs get less penalties called on them than almost every team they play in the playoffs. And there's something to that. I also think Patrick Mahomes is an expert. I think he's just a smart football player, and he knows how to draw those penalties.
That he draws penalties when he's running out of bounds anyway on the sideline and just kind of takes the extra step to make it look like a flop to try and draw an unnecessary roughness. That's a competitive advantage.
Yeah, I mean, to me,
I wish that Will Levis would do something like that instead of throwing himself off the sideline and breaking somebody's leg in the process of doing that. I wish that was the case.
Yeah, we're in agreement. To me, that's tactical more than anything, and Mahomes is an expert at it. I agree. They don't need the help. And they get it, but I think that has a lot to do with the way they make you pay because of how good you are. They are.
They make their own luck.
Agreed.
This is the thing that and we'll move on after this. My position on officiating at the NFL level and at the college football level is the same. It's not good enough. It's not good enough in the Titans-Jags game. It's not good. Are people screaming to the rafters that the Chargers are overwhelming beneficiaries of calls? Even though Titans fans are furious about the way a fumble 6 recovery that Jeff had a strip sack. Roger McCreary, I think, recovered the fumble for a touchdown. They ended up ruling it an incomplete pass in favor of the Chargers, and it wiped a defensive touchdown off the board this year in L.A. These things happen in every game. It's just the Chiefs are on national television more often than not, so it's easier to make it a talking point. Officiating is not good enough at every level of football.
Okay, there is some actual football stuff to get to here, but a couple quick hits again from Goodell in his State of the League yesterday. He said that the NFL, he is planning for the NFL to have an international franchise. He says when that happens, the Super Bowl can be hosted abroad to support it. So Goodell is basically saying international franchise has to happen first, then a Super Bowl overseas can follow. He also fielded questions about an 18-game season and said, quote, "We haven't had any formal discussion on an extension." He says he has had conversations with the NFLPA on it. They are all preliminary, and that 18 games is a possibility because of, quote, "the safety of our game." He said, quote, "We know that fans love football and want more football, but we have to be incredibly sensitive and smart about it." So that's all part of the discussion. But it does seem like a logical next step. There doesn't really seem to be a timetable for it. Same goes for the international franchise.
We're playing a game in Spain this year. Not we, the Titans are playing a game in Spain this year, but the NFL is playing a game in Spain this year. That's the first of its kind. That was announced last year, I want to say, at the Super Bowl, as a matter of fact, at the Las Vegas Super Bowl. How long? I mean, we are all, again, what happens first? The asteroid hits or the NFL has an international franchise?
Asteroid is projected for 2032.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say asteroid.
I'm inclined to agree with you, asteroid. There is no timetable for getting that done, but there is no question that the league wants that. UW says, who wants to play overseas? It's moronic. Nobody wants to play overseas. Nobody wants to play overseas. The Jags players don't like spending weeks in London. I'm sure aren't the Colts going to Germany this year or something like that?
Yeah, so so the NFL has hit England, Germany, now Spain, Mexico, Brazil. Am I missing anything?
No, because I had heard, and this was a long time ago, this was in the 2019 scene, I had heard that they had interest in playing games in Japan.
Wow.
And that COVID, kind of upended that. Because I was going to go to the Tokyo Olympics in 2020, but obviously the pandemic made that not tenable. So we'll see how far away we are from something like that. Again, the Saudis just bought golf, essentially. How long until Saudi Arabia tries to get into the NFL game? It would not be a bad investment for them. It certainly wouldn't be bad for the business of professional football. What the NFL wants is international broadcast rights. So who does this make sense for? Yes, it's moronic to play games overseas. You know who doesn't care about? The league. The league is in growth mode. They want international money. they are very jealous of the fact. How much did Messi help raise the subscription value of the MLS on Apple TV?
Yeah, substantially. To the point where he got, that was part of the deal, is he got a share of the subscription revenue that came in because he came to Major League Soccer.
The NFL wants in the streaming game, they want in the international broadcast rights game. The only way to do that is to consistently play games overseas, which they have since started to accomplish. Sky Sports, I believe, is the NFL's UK international broadcast partner at this point in time. They want it in Spain. They want it in Tokyo. They want it in Australia and Germany and everywhere else in between. They want football to be a global game.
Well, they played preseason games in Japan in the late 90s, early 2000s. So, this isn't totally uncharted territory.
Like I said, it was a long time ago. It was in the middle of the 2019 season that I heard at least the rumblings of the NFL's interest in playing a regular season game in Japan.
By the way, Nashville SC season kicks off 2 weeks from Saturday. A lot to be excited about there. Travis Kelce was asked about his future with the media at the Super Bowl yesterday, and this was his response to the question. Well, he repeats the question at the start of his answer.
Where will I be in 3 years? Oh man, I don't know. Hopefully still playing football. I love doing this. I love coming into work every day, and I feel like I still got a lot of good football left in me, but we'll see what happens. I know I've been setting myself up for other opportunities in my life, and that's always been the goal, knowing that football only lasts for so long. You got to find a way to get into another career, into another, profession, and I've been doing that in my off seasons, but for the most part, I plan on being a Kansas City Chief and playing football.
He's 35. He'll be 36 in early October. Kelce, this regular season, had his lowest amount of production since 2015, which was since his rookie year. 823 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns during the regular season. He has popped up more in the postseason, which you would expect, but says he's nowhere close to hanging it up.
Who is the oldest tight end to still be playing regular season games?
Ever? How old was Gonzalez when
Tony Gonzalez was up there? Delaney was honestly up there.
Yeah, Delaney was.
And what was his last season? 19? He was 35.
Tony finished in 2013. He is currently 48 years old. So he was in his late 30s. But, he was about the same age. When Tony Gonzalez retired, he was about the same age as Kelce will be at the end of this coming season.
Tight end is an interesting proposition there because he can be a role player. He doesn't have to be. He can still technically be a chief superstar without being a starter.
You're still getting 800 yards out of your tight end in the regular season, and everybody's saying that's a giant step back for him. And he pops up in the playoffs in critical moments, and the connection between he and Pat Mahomes is a priceless one.
Is Tony Gonzalez not in the Hall of Fame yet? He should be. These numbers are crazy.
Oh, Mercedes Lewis is the answer to your question.
Still wandering around out there.
40 years old.
God. But he's an extra offensive lineman, Mercedes Lewis. At this point in time.
He hasn't had and he was never that big time receiver at tight end, right? Early in his career, he'd have 400 to 500 yard seasons.
Antonio Gates and Tony Gonzalez are probably the two players that you associate with still being reasonably high level players at their position at an advanced age. I think.
Mercedes is still around. He's still playing.
No, I know. But I'm saying Antonio Gates was still catching touchdown passes on a regular basis. Tony Gonzalez had 8 touchdown receptions his last year at 37. He had 859 yards. 83 receptions for Atlanta in 2013. That's craziness.
But Travis Kelce and the production that he is still putting up at the age of 35, he's critical to their success. He's critical as a pass-catching tight end. So I believe him, man. Even if he continues to slow down substantially and he's giving you 500 yards,
what if you just make him inactive during the regular season, turn him on for the playoffs, and let's go?
That's what I'm saying. Why hang it up at this point? Unless you're just ready to go hang out with Taylor, but she's pretty busy. So I don't know. You'd probably just be hanging out at home by yourself most of the time.
He's
traveling with her.
How much money he got for that Pfizer campaign? He's doing a lot of different things.
No, for sure.
He's doing ads. He's got the podcast.
The podcast is huge.
He wants to be in acting. Isn't he doing some kind of game show right now too? He had that.
Jason did the Tonight Show kind of thing.
Yeah, I never watched
like
that.
late night show.
I wonder if that was any
By
good.
the way, Tony Gonzalez is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Didn't he have a dating show too?
He did have a dating show. It was like Catching Kelce or something like that. This was before, though, they were winning Super Bowls on a regular basis. I think Alex Smith was still the quarterback.
Gonzalez was inducted in 2019.
Okay, I was going to say.
He was in Grotesque. Whatever that is.
I don't know what happened to that show. I saw commercials for that. The Houston Texans have an offensive coordinator. They have hired Rams tight ends coach and passing game coordinator Nick Caley, who is reunited with Nick Caserio, the Texans GM. Caley was on the Patriots staff from 2015 to 2022 in multiple capacities, but mostly as a tight ends coach. Nick Caserio comes from that Patriots front office, and he will call plays for C.J. Stroud and the Texans offense.
How many different coaches has Sean McVay gotten jobs for?
Oh, his tree. It has to be the biggest active coaching tree.
Well, now the Belichick's
in the NFL,
gone for
right?
sure.
I mean, the coach here is a part of it. Brian Callahan is a part of the Zach Taylor tree. Zach Taylor is a part of that Sean McVay tree. Even though Callahan never worked for McVay, it's still just all the offshoots of it have touched almost every franchise.
It's just funny that both of them are technically members of the Jay Gruden tree, which I don't think people would associate with the height of offensive success.
Jay Gruden's coaching tree. Low-key insane. Yeah. Think of Kyle Shanahan, LaFleur, McDaniel, McVay. Man.
That's what I'm saying. Jay Gruden. Bring him back.
Godfather.
That guy hasn't worked in so long. He's too busy getting in fights on Twitter with who? RG3?
Yeah. But Nick Caley, 42. This hire is being praised. Obviously, he will be a first-time play caller.
What hire doesn't get praised other than the Brian Schottenheimer hire for the Cowboys? What hire just gets panned as soon as it's made? There's very few and far between.
I mean, some are more inspiring than others. I don't think anybody was, blown away by the Dan Quinn hire. Nobody would have predicted the Commanders to the NFC Championship. You're right. The Schottenheimer hire has gotten kind of dunked on by everybody around Dallas.
Yeah.
So it just says that he's a well-respected guy that has come up in that Sean McVay. He's only been with McVay for 2 years, but was with the Patriots for several, two-time Super Bowl champ. Young play caller, another guy from the state of Ohio. Ohio has produced more NFL coaches than any state in the union.
Agreed.
And that's the Texans' new play caller to replace Bobby Slowick, who was fired.
So the reason part of the reason why Bobby Slowick got fired is because C.J. Stroud got sacked 52 times and they couldn't come up with reasonable protection plans. At least
they also fired the O-line coach,
according to their own internal audit of what was being done correctly and incorrectly based on the needs of the team at the time. Stroud was sacked 52 times. It's the second most in the NFL last year. He was pressured on 38.6% of the dropbacks. So that's the first and foremost thing that Nick Caley has to come in and correct with the Houston Texans.
Last thing, quickly.
It's 11:40.
It is. Well, we'll talk about what the Jags did with Tony Baselli at a later time.
I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is the number. Now, we don't really do a lot of guests on the radio show on a regular basis, but this was a pretty cool story that our friend Carrie Romero reached out to us about, and we're very pleased to be joined by Emma and Lewis Hine on 1045 The Zone now. They are international NFL fans, and they have been lucky enough to win a couple of tickets to this upcoming Super Bowl. Emma and Lewis, thank you so much for joining us. And are you guys in New Orleans already, or are you heading there later this week? Oh, okay. It appears that they are muted, so Jackson will help them get that rectified here in just... Hey, there we go. We got
Hello.
Thanks so much for jumping on with you guys, with us, you guys. Are you in New Orleans this week?
We flew out on Friday from the UK, so flying out from London on Friday, and we're so excited. It's unbelievable.
So for the audience who's unfamiliar, and I really enjoyed the piece that Carrie sent me that NFL UK and Ireland posted on their YouTube channel about how you guys came to be NFL fans and kind of the community that you've helped create. Lewis, if you wouldn't mind sharing your story here with our audience locally in Nashville, we would greatly appreciate it.
So yeah, I definitely would say that Carrie is very heavily responsible for me becoming an NFL fan, and because her team was obviously the Tennessee Titans, and she just showed me what they're all about and how they run and what their priorities are, and I just loved it. And ever since that moment, she's got me invested in Tennessee Titans.
He is the biggest Titans fan. Our house is covered with Titans scarves, flags, Derrick Henry memorabilia from a few years ago. But for those that don't know Lewis's story, so Lewis was born with a brain tumor, and he's had 14 brain surgeries. He's got 2 mechanical implants, one in his chest, one in his brain, that keeps him alive. And he missed a lot of school because he was always in hospital. So when he was 14 years old, he thought, this can't be my life. I'm so lonely and isolated by my illness, and I don't have any friends. So he created a little community group called Friend Finder, and invited other children in the same situation that had an illness or disability to come along and make friends. And so many people came, and it just became really, really popular. And then 2 years later, he created a little Facebook video on Lewis Hine Official, if you want to look it up and have a look. It's just 90 seconds long, and it says about his life living with a life-limiting illness and the little project Friend Finder he'd set up to create friends for young people that were isolated and lonely. Within 2 days, it had over 31 million views. It was absolutely crazy. And in the first week, he received over 50,000 emails from other young people like him around the world who too were isolated by their illness. And it changed our lives forever, didn't it?
It was quite scary for me because I was only a teenager, and there was all this attention on me, all these media outlets, and I was like, didn't know what to do with myself. I don't like all this attention, but it obviously came with the video. So we just sort of went with it, and it was amazing, some of the people that we met along the way.
Yeah, and he said, Mum, Friend Finder's great, but it's not good enough. Look at all these children that need help around the world. So Lewis created the charity A World with Friends. And that's where one of the parts of the NFL comes in, because along the way, about 10 years ago, we met the Romero family, who are the most phenomenal people you could ever want to meet in your life. And we fell in love with the Titans through their love of the Tennessee Titans. And then we actually went out. We've been to Nashville. We've seen the Titans. We had the time of our lives.
It was very cool.
And then the Romeros flew over to the UK to watch the Titans over here. And this is where it just shows how when you give love out to others and put out into the universe, it comes back to you. Because Carrie had some tickets, and with Lewis, they donated them to the NFL UK Foundation. So young people in London who weren't fortunate enough to have tickets to go and see the Titans play could actually go and witness firsthand the incredible Titans play at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the UK. And because of that, the NFL actually turned around and said, "We love what you do, Lewis. We are so blown away. We want to make your bucket list trip come true. And we're going to send you off to New Orleans to go to the Super Bowl."
It's such a cool story, and thank you guys for taking some time to visit with us. Emma and Lewis Hine joining us from the United Kingdom here on 104.5 The Zone.
And we're not surprised that Carrie and Gus and their whole family extended their love of the Titans with you guys. So cool that they've brought you in. So is there a favorite Titans moment, favorite Titans player that just further entrenched you into this fanhood?
Obviously, at the time, Derrick Henry was around. But obviously, since he's gone on his way to the Ravens, I don't really have a favourite player or a favourite moment. It's just the organisation as a whole and what they're about is what mainly captivates me and has me interested in their organisation as a whole.
Can I just say, I love the team, I love the players, I love the game. I absolutely love it. The best thing for me is the fans. English football or soccer as you know it, there's always rivalry. You can't sit next to the opposition team. You know, we often have police separating us. And the one thing that stood out to me about the NFL was that you can sit next to someone cheering for the opposite team and they share their pretzel with you, you know. Amazing atmosphere. It's full of love and happiness, and it is just the most incredible day out. And I've been encouraging everyone in the UK to actually go to an NFL game because it's an event. It's such a family-orientated, amazing day out. So for me, the NFL is all about the fans and the love that they have for the sport and for each other. And it's something in the UK we need a lot more of.
Emma, that's true of 29 NFL stadiums, not the 30th where the Philadelphia Eagles play. I would not suggest that particular environment as being warm and welcoming and familially based. But everywhere else, it's a great time. Emma and Lewis Hine here with us on 104.5 The Zone. The website, lewishine.co.uk, is where you can go to learn more about Lewis, what he has overcome, what he and Emma and their family have overcome throughout the course of his diagnosis, and the charitable efforts that he has helped bring to the forefront. Lewis, just how gratifying, I understand that the extent of the media attention, the extent of just the online attention can be scary, for sure, in a moment like that. But once you get through that initial kind of lack of comfort, how gratifying was it to know that despite whatever you might have been dealing with, the loneliness, the seclusion, essentially, that there were so many other people dealing with the exact same kind of thing and just needed somebody to reach out or at least provide a platform for people to share these stories?
Yes, it's amazing the fact that I've been able to meet and come in contact with so many people that are basically on the same path as me. They've got a condition. It basically controls their life on a day-to-day basis. But they make the most of it, and all they want out of life is just to have people that they can trust and talk to in any situation.
He really has created a world with friends, and it's such an incredible thing to be a part of. It's amazing.
Like I said, lewishine.co.uk is where you can go to learn more about Lewis and A World with Friends and the great efforts that he and Emma and everybody in their community have helped to support. Bucket list in New Orleans, anything, and I know the Super Bowl, obviously the ultimate bucket list item here, it sounds like, but anything in particular you're looking forward to about New Orleans around the game?
Maybe a food item.
The square donuts, what are they called?
The beignets, yes.
That's what I was fishing for.
Everyone keeps telling me about these that we need to get, and also the NFL parade. Going to see a Mardi Gras parade is going to be phenomenal. There will be no grass skirts wearing from me, though. Maybe Lewis.
Just careful who you throw the beads to out there on Bourbon Street. It can get a little hectic from time to time. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's later in the evening in your part of the world. Have a safe trip to New Orleans, and most of all, enjoy the game.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care.
Take care.
That's Emma and Lewis Hine, kind enough to join us from the United Kingdom. An awesome story, and just Carrie and her family, Carrie, Gus, and their kids, the way that they continue to show that outpouring of love and support for everybody that they come into contact with. The fact that there are people who just give so willingly of themselves, and like what Lewis and Emma are doing to help support people who go through medical tragedies so early on, and certainly to go through something like that as a kid. I mean, Lewis, on the website, it says he was first diagnosed with a brain tumor at 17 months. 17 months old. This is his entire life that he's dealing with this kind of stuff, and the level of isolation that comes with that kind of intensive medical care. I can't even begin to imagine. I'm just grateful that people like them exist to provide that outlet, that support for so many people internationally that need to know that people elsewhere are going through the same things that they are.
Yeah, and sports is the thing that kind of brought them together, the NFL and the Titans. So very cool. I'm sure they'll be repping the Titans in New Orleans this week. And just an awesome story. Really appreciate Carrie for reaching out to us with that.
Yeah, somebody get them a couple of hand grenades. Maybe Slay buy them a hand grenade while they're down there taking in the NFL parade. I don't know if that's quite on the bucket list of New Orleans experiences. All right, coming up next, we are going to get into what Deandre Hopkins said about the Titans and the trade that sees him competing for a Super Bowl. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
12:02, good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. In NFL news, LA Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp announced on social media Monday that the Rams are seeking to trade him. Kupp saying, quote, "I don't agree with the decision and always believed it was going to begin and end in LA." Kupp will be 32 by the start of the 2025 season. He missed 5 games due to injury in 2024. Buffalo Bills safety Micah Hyde has announced his retirement from the NFL. The 34-year-old is a 2-time All-Pro, and he hangs it up after 12 seasons. College hoops tonight, Vanderbilt visits 6th-ranked Florida in Gainesville. Both teams looking to bounce back from a loss. Tip-off is at 6 p.m. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
So the Chiefs and the Eagles, they're back in the Super Bowl, the 11th Super Bowl hosted in the wonderful city of New Orleans. Going to take place here in just a few days from now. 3HL is heading down there today, Joseph, or tomorrow?
Joseph's gone.
To the airport?
No. I don't know where he is now.
All right. Either way, 3HL is going to be down there for the bulk of the week, providing you great interviews and on-the-scene insights. I'm more interested to know what Slay gets into at night than I am about the Super Bowl Radio Row interviews. Like, I just want a daily Slay in New Orleans recap.
A nightly vlog.
Congratulations to Ron Slay, who deservedly will be the newest member, or he is the newest inductee in the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. Brad Willis was here to give the announcement yesterday.
The most recently announced member of the 2025 Hall of Fame class. That's 2 local sports legends in the last couple of weeks that have gone in. D-Mace, Derek Mason, congratulations to him.
And 3.
Ron Slay. Oh, Doug Matthews.
Coach Doug Matthews.
How about that? Look at that. And Brad Willis just stopping by on a regular basis. What Hall of Fame do we think Lucas is going to get into? The Birmingham High School Alumni Association Hall of Fame?
Oh, I did nothing to warrant that.
But yes, we're very happy for Slay. We're incredibly happy for Slay. You know, we just did that interview with Emma and Lewis Hine, and you talk about people who just are, not over the top even, but just naturally inviting and welcoming to everybody that they come across. Slay is another one of those people.
Yep.
To be, to have any part of Ron Slay in any of our lives has been a tremendous blessing. Obviously, his on-the-court accolades have gotten him inducted into the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, and then what he'll do as a broadcaster, I'm sure he could have 2 Hall of Fame careers, for all we know. But I don't know. I just have such a huge appreciation for Slay's personality and the way that he just makes you, I don't know. There's not a lot of people that make you feel included, no matter who you are or where you come from or what you do or how you sound or what you look like or anything like that. The way that Slay and his family, Chris, who I've gotten to know over the course of the last couple of years, they're just, I mean, more of their family at Slay's wedding in Long Beach that Lucas decided to skip out on because Slay apparently is not a good enough friend for Lucas Panzica to take time out of his day to go to his wedding. But that's neither here nor there. Lucas, not interested in being inclusive, clearly, and being, a part of the warm familial embrace that Slay and his family provide. It's fine. I understand.
It's kind of fun when he gets kneecapped instead of me.
You get a little bit of relief there. No, I had some serious FOMO that weekend, but yes, Slay embraces everybody he comes across. He is a legend, not just for his time at Tennessee, but his time at Pearl Cone, his time on the airwaves. And, man, what a crew in studio here to make the announcement. I mean, some old coaches, his family. Chris was here. Big John Henderson was here. Of course, Brad Willis making the announcement. Ramon was in here. So cool. So cool to be listening to that. and be blindsided by it when I was driving around yesterday afternoon. I had no idea that was coming, but congrats to Slay.
So Slay now joins the class with Chris Woodruff, Deion Grant, Doug Matthews, D. Mace, Steven Gostkowski, Larry, forgive me, Larry Kennon. I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. Priscilla Gary Sweeney, the late Ronnie Robinson, the late Philip Clark, Tony Allen, Elston Turner, George Pitts, and Bob Brown, all announced members of the class of 2025. The full class of 2025 for the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame induction will be announced over the course of the next couple of weeks. So we're very happy for Slay. We're very happy for Coach Matt. We're happy for everybody that's getting inducted. But Slay, D. Mason, Doug Matthews are all people that we've gotten to come into contact with over the course of our careers and our time here in Nashville, and grateful for all three of them and very happy to see them getting in. I think, honestly, D-May's probably the most overdue for that. I know there's a bit of a contentious relationship with, I don't know how much of this is faded, but the fact that Derek went to the Ravens and then had an obviously very successful career with the Ravens after leaving the Titans and everything that happened there. I know that there's some conflicting fan emotions around Titans, Ravens, whether it be McNair, Samari Roll, Derrick Henry.
He's on a list of Titans legends.
Yeah,
so
for sure. So happy for everybody involved there. Well, I said I was going to talk about what DeAndre Hopkins had to say yesterday at Super Bowl Media Day, revolving around the Titans, but I feel that we should save that for the next segment to allow ourselves to stretch that out a little bit, because there's some interesting stuff there. Out of all the different things that you heard from Super Bowl Media Night, there's one thing that stood out more than anything to me. Did you have anything that caught your attention beyond the DeAndre Hopkins thing? Like, if you're just taking in Super Bowl Media Night or seeing the clips on the internet, more likely, not that many of us are watching the Super Bowl coverage, maybe you are, but it was a mess in New Orleans. Was there any one thing that caught your attention, non-Titans adjacent division?
Well, we already talked about the Goodell stuff.
No, I'm talking about the media night.
Yeah, in terms of the media night, I thought Travis Kelce saying, just making no plans, not even hinting at potential retirement, saying he wants to be playing for the Chiefs in 3 years was interesting. I enjoy Jameis Winston asking Saquon Barkley, because Winston now is a member of media, at least this week, for Fox Sports, about where he should be playing next year. And Saquon Barkley said, I think the New York Giants need a quarterback.
Jameis is also doing the thing. You remember T. Higgins got asked last year at the Super Bowl how he'd feel about playing for the Titans, and he said, yeah, I'd love that hometown team, this, that, and the other, and got a bit of traction. Apparently the same...
hometown team? Why would that be Jameis's... Why would the Titans be Jameis's hometown team?
T. Higgins.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes, he is from Tennessee.
Jameis apparently, and I don't know the outlet. I don't know if it's a Titans fan. Is it a Titans podcast? Do you know anything about the podcast? Anyway, they went up to Jameis Winston apparently last night and asked him the same question. How'd you feel about playing for the Titans? And he said, I'd love to play for the Titans.
I'd love that.
Yeah. Listen, if they're going to be bad, at least give us something fun to watch.
Well, the plan is not to be bad, so Jameis Winston probably not going to be the starting quarterback.
Well,
he's a serviceable backup.
Their plan is not to be bad necessarily, but en route to getting good, it is fair to expect that they would face a significant amount of adversity
again in 2025.
I would say that that's the most diplomatic way to put it. Now, the thing that most caught my attention is what you just mentioned. Jameis Winston was a media member. That was the highlight of my day. Did you see the W cookies he had at his disposal?
Awesome.
He was flinging them like Frisbees at players. Saquon had to reach out one-handed, snag it out of the air. A.J. Brown's having to make not quite a diving catch for the W cookie. The thing that stood out to me about the W cookie, they were not wrapped. So Jameis just has cookies that he's holding in his hand. I don't know if Jameis has sweaty palms. I don't know what's going on there, but these W cookies, they were not sealed in plastic. I would be reticent to eat the W cookie.
I would eat the cookie.
Well, you would eat anything. You would eat something off the floor.
Ocho Cinco also just popping up and making an appearance. Did you see him kissing Nick Sirianni on the forehead during one of Nick Sirianni's media availabilities? Yeah, was there any explanation as to why there was a forehead kiss? He also crashed D-Hop's answer to Nick Suss of the Tennessean that we're about to talk about in the next segment on just some insight on the trade from the Titans. And, if you hear the audio, you'll hear D-Hop just pausing and saying, oh, what's up? And dapping up Chad Ocho Cinco.
We're going to read it. It's the audio's bad.
Fair enough. Ocho Cinco, though, just snuck up behind Sirianni and just kissed him on the forehead.
Was Sirianni aware that it was Ocho Cinco?
Well, the look in his eyes before he saw it was Ocho Cinco. He was like, what the hell? And then he made eye contact. Oh, hey, what's up? And it was an embrace, but I thought that was funny.
So, a lot of the Super Bowl hype is always interesting because it's a big news week. A lot of news comes out. Cooper Kupp, Myles Garrett. There'll probably be some more stuff in the coming days before the actual game takes place. But this comment in the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can live stream the show, catches my attention. Taylor says, I have never been as bored and uninterested in the Super Bowl as I'm feeling this year. It's not my place to tell Taylor how to feel or how he's actually feeling, assuming that Taylor's a guy. Maybe I shouldn't make that assumption, guy or girl, how they are feeling at this point in time. But how often are you excited about the Super Bowl for the entire week leading up to the Super Bowl? Like my experience with the Super Bowl, unless I'm there doing stuff around the Super Bowl that week where it's going to attract the most amount of attention, or obviously we're doing a sports talk radio show, the Super Bowl going to come up a fair amount in the week leading up. Like, I don't know, my experience as a football fan has always just been, we'll go to somebody's house, we'll watch the Super Bowl, hopefully it's a good game. Like I don't get excited for the Super Bowl until the Super Bowl's on.
Yeah. Does it almost feel like, and everybody's going to be watching, of course. It's not going to hurt the ratings. No. But does it almost...
The ratings for a Chiefs-Eagles rematch are going to be huge.
And I get the Chiefs fatigue. But does it almost feel like the 2 weeks in between conference championships and Super Bowl, it's like just a tiny bit of momentum gets lost? Majority of fans... Because I certainly think, and maybe this is a conversation for another day, that this happened with the college football postseason. I think college football was at this peak where we were talking about it week over week and the new rankings coming out and who's in, who's out.
See,
and then it just kind of felt like it just kind of fizzled a little bit and there wasn't as much juice at the end of the college football postseason.
No, see, I'm mentally prepared for the Super Bowl, like the Pro Bowl lull, essentially. And a lot of times we've got enough to distract us because that's Senior Bowl week. There's a lot. Sometimes I'll go to the Senior Bowl during the week. And it'll take up my attention and not make me feel like there's any bit of a dip because there's still football stuff going on. There's still important things of football consequence, news-wise, that are being determined there. The college football playoff stuff, though, is so much more disjointed. Like the length of time between the games, there wasn't necessarily I know that there's going to be a week of drop-off between the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl.
It was just scattered. It just felt kind of random.
All over the place, right?
Yeah.
Do we have college football playoff games today? Or do we have them next week? Or what's the schedule? And
it's a sport that's always been a regular season sport. And that has a part of it, too. It's not an established playoff format. So, there are a lot of factors.
Taylor adds the context of that he is a man. He says he's 33, which makes him not technically a man yet. You have to be 40 before you're a man, according to Mike Gundy.
According to Mike Gundy.
That's how these things are determined. I wonder how much of this, locally, if there's not some... Locally, football season has been over. And I know the Vols made the college football playoff, but the NFL season has been over for local fans since October.
Yeah, the Vols playoff run ended before the Titans' regular season ended.
No, I know. But I'm saying in terms of the Titans, their season was done in October. There was no...
I see what you're saying. They're out of contention.
So there's just this malaise around NFL football in the city of Nashville because the Titans were so wretched that I don't know if that plays into local interest. Football season's just been over for us for months and months at this point. Maybe that contributes in part. I could understand that. God knows that, at the end of it, it was wearing on everybody. Just these games didn't matter. And you're just waiting out the stretch for them to figure out what kind of draft pick that they were going to get. And then the whole Rand Carthon thing and on it goes. So coming up next, you'll hear, I'll read you Deandre Hopkins' comments because the audio is shaky at best. But there was some interesting insight into how it ended here in Tennessee that saw him on the Super Bowl contending Chiefs roster. And also, speaking of the Titans and their season, Brian Callahan's got a pretty impressive quarterback resume. How much did Will Levis hurt Brian Callahan's quarterback resume? We'll talk about it coming up next. Will I have enough money when I retire? When should I start to draw from Social Security? If these questions keep you up at night, let me introduce you to the team that's there to keep you on the right track and guide you through it. That's Trajan Wealth. TRAJAN Wealth. Not just any financial firm. Your partners in securing your financial future is Trajan Wealth. And they're not just a fiduciary firm either. They're a family-owned, veteran-led team that puts your needs first. Let their decades of experience specializing in retirement planning and wealth management work for you. Trajan Wealth offers free consultations to help you develop your plan and your peace of mind. So call them today at 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000, or visit them online at TrajanWealth.com. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, 615-737-1045. By the way, congratulations to Hattie B's, winner of the Nashville Scenes Hot Chicken Week. I told you, it's the best hot chicken in the country. I mean, you knew this if you've been to Hattie B's, but just more accolades, more awards for the Hattie B's trophy case. What do we think the Hattie B's trophy case looks like right now as we continue to celebrate ourselves for a second place finish in a radio poll that nobody else besides radio people pay attention to?
Yeah, but they're not like us. They don't do it for the trophies. They do it for the love of community and the love of hot chicken.
Yeah, that's right. I don't do it for any of that. Money, money at the top, and then, everything else as a result. But congratulations to Hattie B's. Money is not the most important thing to Deandre Hopkins. Love of the game is something that he has helped him continue to prolong his NFL career. Now, he's an excellent player, has been an excellent player across his career. He's obviously not at the peak of his powers anymore, but there was an interesting exchange. Nick Suss of the Tennessean is at Super Bowl, or at least was at Super Bowl Media Day. I don't know if Nick's down there for the full week or what's going on, but Hop was there at Media Night at one of the podiums speaking on behalf of the Kansas City Chiefs. And Suss, who obviously works here for the Tennessean, asked him about the way things ended during the Buffalo game and then what led him to be traded. I believe that was that was the week after the Buffalo game, yeah?
The Bills game was the last time D-Hop suited up in the Titans uniform.
So this is what DeAndre Hopkins was asked specifically about, hey, can you kind of clarify what happened with the Bills situation? Because there was some narratives out there about potential benching for performance or other things that were going on there. And D-Hop, I mean, it's the most expansive quote I think I've ever seen D-Hop give.
Yeah, very honest.
Quote, there was a lot of stuff in the media saying that I got benched. I didn't get benched. That's the first time in my career where I was like, man, I don't belong out here on this field right now. We weren't winning. No plays were being called for me. Not that I'm a player that ever needs the ball, but if I'm on the field, I want to be included in something. So I took myself out of the game, and I saw a lot of things in the media saying I got benched, and I let it go. The next day, I went into Rand Carthon's office, and I was like, I'm losing the love for this game being in this situation. And Rand said he could see it in my eyes that I didn't want to be here anymore. He goes on at some length to talk about how much he loves the city of Nashville and that he was grateful for the opportunity with the Titans when the opportunity arose for him to sign as a free agent here in 2023. But I mean, I don't know. Is he saying anything that the vast majority of people couldn't identify with? I mean, how many people lost their love for this Titans football team because of the way that this season went? Not the Titans in general. It didn't completely rob you of your fandom to suffer through a 3-14, even though 3-14 was a suffering. But like anybody else, this football season robbed a lot of people of their joy of football because their football team had no joy associated with it. The height of joy for the 2024 Tennessee Titans was the first half of the Bears game. After that, it was all downhill, except for the Texans. The Texans went on the road, maybe just a small spark that made you think, okay, maybe they've got some more juice, and they never built on any of it. After the Patriots game, I remember Brian Callahan's post-game press conference and his voice cracking, talking about Tony Pollard and just asking him, hey, how badly did you guys need this thing? And he got emotional. He's not like breakdown bawling type emotional, but clearly I'm sure Brian Callahan had some of his joy taken from how hard this season was to go through. So that DeAndre Hopkins is saying that, I think it's a credit to him that that's just now a talking point. That DeAndre Hopkins never made a scene on trying to get out of Nashville. He went about it diplomatically and professionally. You could argue about pulling yourself out of an NFL game or not, whether that's reasonable, but I think that's completely fair. Now, he's not been a huge contributor for the Chiefs, and he's obviously in an advanced age for an NFL wide receiver, but he's still been able to produce in spurts, and he's still competing for a Super Bowl as a starting wide receiver for a Chiefs team that needed wide receiver help. I'm glad that he's getting this opportunity. He had a really cool post on Instagram yesterday about, what it's taken for him to achieve this specific accomplishment just to get there for the first time in his career. Because if I'm not mistaken, he's never played in an AFC or NFC championship game.
No,
Texans
because
never
the
went to one.
Texans have never been to one, and certainly not with the Cardinals.
The Cardinals had a couple of good teams, but he posted this on Instagram yesterday to all the kids out there living in small towns and small houses with single parents, to the kids who see violence, who see loss, who don't get the resources they deserve, but who still have big dreams. Know that I was a kid in your exact shoes, and this week I'm playing in the Super Bowl. Don't give up. Work hard. Keep believing. Where you start doesn't determine where you end up. He also went on to say that he was grateful for the Titans, and he adds in that quote that I read that Rand Carthon was willing to facilitate the trade. Like, you could tell it's a human business to an extent, even if a lot of it can be cold and calculated.
Yeah, nothing about the way Rand Carthon went about his business was cold and calculated.
No.
That's for sure.
But he's the exception.
Yes.
Most front offices are cold and calculated. So Rand Carthon, it speaks to the kind of person that he is. Now, whether or not that personality type is somebody that is best served as a general manager of an organization, where at some points you do have to be cold and calculated. It can't be all relationship based. That's a different debate for another day. But Deandre Hopkins is competing for a Super Bowl because the Tennessee Titans did him a solid. And Rand Carthon specifically sounds like he did him a solid. Now, I wonder, I'd like to know more about why Hopkins thought things went the way that they did offensively at some point in time.
Yeah, because he talks about plays not being called for him.
Right.
And just not being involved. Now, if we remember that Bills game, Titans took an early lead, and they took a 10-7 lead into the half, and then were outscored 27-0 in the second half. Lost that game 34-10. That was a Mason Rudolph game. It was not a Will Levis game. Rudolph was 25 of 40 for 215 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. I mean, the Titans just...
Josh Allen went Super Saiyan in the second half. It was excellent.
And the Titans just weren't able to move the ball in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, they had 289 total yards of offense. They struggled on third downs. Yeah. That was the biggest takeaway Titans fans had, was him saying that there weren't plays being called for him, which, again, is something that we heard Calvin Ridley bring up early in the season about getting involved early. And this was after a game, and I can't remember which game it was exactly, that Ridley had some late drops. Maybe the Colts game, the home game against the Colts. Ridley had some late drops.
That was the first Colts game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the Titans lost.
That was the game that he had like 8 targets without a reception.
Yes, and they probably should have won, and they lost. He had multiple drops in that game. They were playing Joe Flacco and the Colts, and
But that's not on him, the way that played out, because he got like 6 of those targets in like the fourth
just
quarter.
kind of forcing it to him. Now, you got to catch the ball. And that was the game that you came on here and you ranted at Titans fans about pocket watching on Calvin Ridley.
I need to go back and watch it.
You just blacked out that day. It's a fever dream.
Buddy, I don't remember half of the things I say. I'm on in front of a camera for 4 hours a day, 6 days a week. You think I remember everything that I say into a microphone?
I disagree with you, because I think if you're making that kind of money, it is fair to bring up the contract when you're not performing. But it was also fair what Ridley was saying.
It was early on, and my takeaway was, why the hell isn't he getting involved? My level of blame, again, was more on the coaching staff than it was on the players.
Yes, and then Brian Callahan talked about that and said, yes, we do need to get Calvin the ball more. And then it took until about the Lions game for them to really consistently get him the football. He started to produce. He ended up having a 1,000-yard season. So I don't know if it was a similar kind of situation with DeAndre Hopkins. This was with Mason Rudolph and not Will Levis. We know how Will Levis had kind of a knack for looking to D-hop, sometimes forcing the ball to D-hop, and that led to some bad moments last season. But ultimately, Hopkins doesn't have any ill will towards the Titans. That much was made clear.
It's a topic that allows us to transition into Brian Callahan, because I was thinking about this week. A lot of people talk about Brian Callahan's quarterback resume, and that's fine. Like, quarterback resume is impressive. He's worked with a lot of impressive quarterbacks. And at some point this year, I brought up, well, is he the reason that those quarterbacks are impressive, or is he facilitating those quarterbacks to help them be the best possible versions of themselves? It's probably the latter as opposed to the former. Brian Callahan didn't make Matt Stafford or Peyton Manning or Derek Carr or, frankly, Joe Burrow, even if he was there. Now, he was also a part of the Denver offensive coaching staff that helped get the most humanly possible out of Tim Tebow, and that is a credit to him as well. But this Hopkins comment, the Ridley thing this season, and Will Levis as a part of Brian Callahan's resume. How much did this last year hurt Brian Callahan's resume, the way that he is regarded as an offensive-minded head coach and somebody who is specifically skilled or has cited his specific skill, his level of belief in himself to be able to identify strengths and basically to be able to evaluate the quarterback position and to maximize it? Because that was something he was not adamant. He wasn't like pounding the table type of, no, I know I can do this. This is how I go about doing this. I've done this my entire career. But he was very, effusive in his belief of self that I can do this job specific to that position because that's what he's done his entire life. Why wouldn't he think that way? It's kind of an interesting problem for, at least for me, to work through in my head because I think Brian Callahan's a hugely intelligent human being. All you hear about him, and I'm not in his meeting rooms or anything like that, but even just in the way that he answers questions and helps me understand more about what I'm watching, I know this person knows football. I just think that this first season as an NFL head coach was awful. And he has a substantial role to play in why it was so awful. Will Levis has his own role to play in again, if you're dividing up the blame pie for the 3-14 Titans. What percentage is Will Levis? What percentage is offensive line play? What percentage is Brian Callahan as a first-year coach? You could divvy up those percentages as you like. I think that Will Levis is the first black mark on Brian Callahan's quarterback resume, but I do think, just based on who I believe Brian Callahan, the coach, to be, I do think that he's very capable of learning from a lot of mistakes that he made in his rookie season as an NFL head coach and an offensive play caller at the same time. And I think that learning those lessons with Levis will probably end up being beneficial to him in the long term, whether it's here in Tennessee or somewhere else.
The perception, I think, about the Titans is that the Titans were terrible in 2024 because Will Levis cratered. Because they see Will Levis doing flip passes and crazy stuff, and you think, well, how can you work with that?
Because you didn't have to watch a Titans game last year to understand the Titans experience, because the memes of Levis were all over the internet. And you say, oh, what did Will Levis do this week? Oh, and the Titans lose again.
Yeah. I think the perception is Brian Callahan did not forget what good quarterback play looks like. Yes. Brian Callahan deserves an opportunity to have his quarterback come in here, and not a quarterback that he inherited because it was an opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL. Patrick on the F&M Bank chat says, Callahan doesn't get blame. Levis wasn't his quarterback pick. Levis can't do what a QB needs to do in Callahan's offense, the boring passes. And there is something to leaning into the player's strengths and not trying to fit a player into a square box. And the perfect example of that is Andy Reid and the Chiefs, right? Andy Reid didn't care about the red flags with Pat Mahomes, and he let Pat Mahomes be Pat Mahomes.
Well, the red flags with Pat were not to the extent of, like, legitimate questions about Levis's ability to play at this level.
But it's an example of a coach bringing a quarterback in and, working on some things with him, but letting the quarterback be himself. Imagine if Patrick Mahomes got drafted into another situation where he just had to be this on-time, rhythmic passer. You got to get rid of sort of the improvisational stuff. He wouldn't be Patrick Mahomes. He wouldn't be the Patrick Mahomes that we know. So there is an element to that. Did Brian Callahan learn from... And it's hard for me to say that any of the Titans' issues were because Callahan didn't play into Levis's strengths. Because Levis's strengths are what? The deep ball, the arm strength. But even that wasn't on display, especially early.
Levis's strengths are his traits, not his skill as a quarterback.
And so that is what makes it hard for me to put a lot of criticism on the head coach. Nobody is immune to criticism after 3-14. But I do think Levis gets a much bigger portion of it. And the great thing is we get to find out. Like, yes. The 49ers picked Trey Lance. It was an abject disaster, right? But that's not a black mark on Kyle Shanahan's resume because look where they are. Look where they've been. So what happens next?
I disagree. I mean, they gave up a lot of draft capital to get Trey
They
Lance.
did. You're right. Okay, maybe it is a black mark on his resume, but
I
nobody
get what
questions.
you're trying to say. Levis is accountable for himself. Levis is responsible for his performance. But you're not. I refuse to accept, and I will accept the conversation that he deserves the largest percentage of the blame there. But there is no circumstance, and this has been my line the entire year long, where you looked at this team and said, did the coaching staff come in here and help make things better, or did they get appreciably worse? Almost across the board, did they get appreciably worse? And I'm not saying that that's who that coaching staff is going to be forever, or that coaching staff can't, they're all bums or whatever. All I'm saying is that is a huge sample size, a 17-game sample size of your inability to at least stop the bleeding.
Stoney says it takes protection holding up for the offense to run those deep shots that Levis likes to take. That is a part of it.
Understand that. This was a flawed situation coming in here, but did they make anything appreciably better as a football team when they were coming in here with the stated goal of taking this thing to another level? It went to another level. The level is just a considerably lower level, the worst team in football. So I get it. Like, Brian Callahan, I think, is going to be able to correct a lot of these wrongs that happened to him in his first year. But that does not absolve him for the percentage of blame that he and his staff absolutely deserve.
3-14 is a part of his record. To the Kyle Shanahan example, you're right. Trey Lance is a black mark on Kyle Shanahan's resume. But do we question Kyle Shanahan as a quarterback evaluator and developer? No. Trey Lance just wasn't it. That's what we need to figure out about Brian Callahan. I am not ready to say, because Brian Callahan took this job to work with Will Levis and the Titans went 3-14 and Levis just wasn't the answer, that Brian Callahan is no longer what I consider to be a good quarterback developer and evaluator.
No, but I'm going to take the comments from people like Deandre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley halfway through the season, and Will Levis wasn't like outright taking out his coaching staff, but all of these things can inform that part of the decision. And I'm not just going to wipe it away because DeAndre Hopkins is 32 years old, or Levis is a turnover liability, or Calvin Ridley had some drop stuff. This is an accumulation of things that players are at least giving some level of voice to that needs to be paid attention to as this team tries to move forward. Now, will it get better when he's got players that he is more responsible for bringing in? I have no earthly idea.
That's what we get to find out.
A hypothetical that we will wait to explore, and we'll have plenty of time between now and, halfway through October before any of those determinations can start to be made. 615-737-1045, the number. Last call for phone calls. If you got them, I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We're fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, wrapping things up for the day. Last call for phone calls if you got them. If you don't get in with us, you got Blaine and Zach. You got 3HL with a future Hall of Famer. Not a Hall of Famer yet. Hall of Fame inductee, Ron Slay. 3HL today. I'm sure he's I should probably bring him in my crown that I wore to SEC Media Days for him to wear on a regular basis, basically for the entire year that he gets inducted to the Hall of Fame. I think that's deserving. Yes?
I wasn't listening to a word you were saying. I was reading something.
Steve is up next.
The one who agree to something.
Hi, Steve. That's fine. He's just going to continue to disrespect his friend Ron Slay, whose wedding he skipped for reasons that are entirely selfish.
Congrats, Slay.
And self-involved. Hey, Steve.
What's going on, Buck? How are you, buddy?
Oh, better than your phone line. Jesus.
What? What's wrong with my phone line?
Speak.
Buck, quit being so rude. Don't cut me off. So, Brian Callahan, okay, did he really develop Manning, Derek Carr, Joe Burrow, or Matthew Stafford? Not a chance. They were already developed. This team is like more than Swiss cheese holes, man. I just don't trust him to develop either one of those two guys. Yeah, I think it's great that you can sit here and go, well, he wants his guy and put his guy in. But until he proves to me that he can coach, I'm not going to give him what he wants. Now I'll compromise and say, okay, who can we get in later rounds? But that's a lot of faith in one guy with so many holes. See y'all.
Thanks for the call, Steve. He had a hand in Burrow. For sure.
And I think Joe Burrow was always going to be successful.
Yeah.
Right? He's one of those guys.
There's no question. Would Joe Burrow have been successful with or without Brian Callahan?
Right.
The answer is without. He would have been fine.
But he played a major role in putting Joe Burrow in a really good position to utilize his strengths.
Agreed. Now, that is an interesting proposition, though. What he says about getting Brian Callahan his guy. What if you decide that Brian Callahan's not the guy?
He's your head coach now. You just can't do anything with that mindset, right?
But teams do all the time, Lucas. It's like the implicit bias of referees. Yeah, sometimes they make mistakes, and sometimes it's because they have biases that they may not be actively acknowledging, but these things happen. Like, NFL teams do this all the time. The exception to the rule is the team or the executive or the coach that does something in the best interest of the team over self-preservation.
But if the mantra is patience over panic, then that has to permeate throughout the organization, right? Then making a draft pick or making any sort of roster move.
Did they say
with
patience over panic specific to the coaching staff? Because that's my understanding.
They're talking about patience over panic in regards to the football team, and they're not saying
right.
Hey,
but
patience
as a football
over panic, don't fire us
they
after
have
a
never
year.
been less interested in being coach-centric. And I think Vrabel informed a lot of that.
Sure. But you draft players to put them in the best position to succeed under the current head coach. They are going to continue to do that, in my mind.
Sure.
I don't think they're locking Brian Callahan out of their meetings.
That's
here.
not the question. The question is that in the best interest of the football team? Because they may fire Brian Callahan at the end of the year. They may fire him after the Patriots game. They may fire him 6 years from now. We have no idea.
He's currently the head coach. So you draft players for the current head coach, not for the head coach that might be here in 2026.
We'll see. Polls? Jesus.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. What in sports made you say, oh no, this weekend? Karen with the good submission that the Packers want the tush-push banned. Packers president Mark Murphy said, quote, there is no skill involved, and it is almost an automatic first down on plays of a yard or less. The play is bad for the game.
Why is there no skill involved if Josh Allen can do it 4 times and not get the first down?
Kenneth says the Mavericks trading Luka, nothing else comes close.
Yeah, that's true.
That was the submission of most people. Do you want the Titans to pursue a trade for Myles Garrett? Where do you think the results leaned?
I bet no.
83% said no.
Okay. 80, it shouldn't be that lopsided, but And again, pursuit is different than having a compensation package prepared. They need to be prepared if they can actually get in the Myles Garrett game. Whether or not they continue to up the ante on their offer is a different matter.
Diana Rossini tweeted yesterday a conversation she had with one NFL GM about what a trade could look like for Garrett. She said a 1 and a 2, a 1 and 2 threes. Throw a player in there, kind of as a ballpark. Titans currently have 2 top 100 picks. 2. They need more of those, not less. What is your biggest complaint about NFL officiating? Puka says, it was so awful this season. At times, I thought Coach Mack was going to have a stroke.
Yeah, that it's actively hurting Coach Mack's health on a regular basis, I think, is my biggest complaint.
Jacob says, there are not enough characters allowed to answer that question. Gary says, a complete and total lack of consistency and transparency.
That's really what it is at the end of the day. Consistency, non-existent. Transparency, the pool reports are produced, but very rarely do they give you the desired transparency.
Yes, for sure. Christian says illegal shifts should be treated like a false start and play gets blown dead at the snap. He got very specific with it.
Yeah. Good. I wanted specific answers.
Do you think an international NFL team is a good idea? 88.6% say no.
A good idea? No. A financially viable idea? Hell yeah.
Yeah, like this is one of those that how many NFL fans are on board with this?
Doesn't matter.
Who wants this?
How many people will watch? Can they sell it to a network? Can they up their price point? The answer is yes.
I guess so. It's just so mystifying to me, the idea that they could have any sort of foothold overseas. I just think the answer is no. I just would be shocked. I'd be blindsided to see an NFL team, after the shine wears off, have any sort of consistent success or foothold in another country.
They've done it before. NFL Europe didn't work, right?
Exactly.
Like, these things exist, but that doesn't mean they won't try them.
Do you think Will Levis hurt Brian Callahan's quarterback resume last season? 84% say yes.
The answer is yes.
Those are the polls.
All right, very good. I'm going to New Orleans. What are you going to do without me?
Oh, we'll be thrilled. We'll have a great time. Blaine Bishop will.
He doesn't even believe that.
Hop on tomorrow.
He's leaking confidence already. He's got this bit of imposter syndrome about people actually caring what he thinks about things when I leave for 3 hours.
I've never been shy about the fact that I don't have that much to say, so it's always a unique challenge for me to do this when you're out of here, because you'll blab for hours and hours. I've never had the vanity to think that I'll be good at that, but I'll give it my best shot. We'll have a good time. Blaine Bishop will be in as someone that used to play for Andy Reid and knows a little bit about how he operates. And Bruce Feldman will hop on Thursday. He had a great feature piece about Saquon and his story from the start to now, we're calling it the best season by a running back in NFL history, right?
You're just going to lean on other people while I'm gone, is what you're telling me.
Yes, something you should do more of.
Yeah, but why would I do that? All right, I'm going to go to New Orleans for a couple days. See you Friday.